Chapter 547. Although Qin Feiyang couldn't let it go, he didn't say anything else. Situ Hai looked at Qin Feiyang and cupped his hands. "Little brother, you came from afar. You must stay for a few more days. Let me do my best as a host." As the butler of the Situ family, he had seen countless people. He could tell that Qin Feiyang was the core of this team. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, "I'm afraid not. We have to return to the spiritual state to prepare for the Nine States War." "Boss, isn't there still 3 months before the Nine States War starts? Staying for a few more days won't delay anything." Fatso immediately said with a hint of pleading in his eyes. Qin Feiyang frowned and looked at the pangolin, Luo Qianxue, and Lin Yiqian. Luo Qianxue said, "Let's just stay for a while." Lin Yi, Lu Hong, and the pangolin nodded. They were thinking for Fatso. After all, Fatso finally found his family's grave, and he had to leave immediately. He must be reluctant. Qin Feiyang sighed helplessly and nodded, "All right. But before the pill hole master wakes up, we have to leave." "No problem." Fatso quickly nodded. "Pill hole master." Situ Hai looked at them confusedly. Fatso chuckled. The pill hole master was crippled by boss and brother wolf. He's recuperating somewhere now. What? Even the pill hole master was crippled? Situ Hai looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. How powerful is this guy? And this brother wolf, who is he? Fatso said, "Uncle Hai, it's a long story. I'll tell you when I have time. Let's go inside first." Yes. Let's go inside first." Situ Hai shuddered and quickly led Qin Feiyang and the others into the wooden building. "Oh, right. Little Hongzi, Aunt Shui, how did you guys survive from the giant python?" Fatso suddenly asked. Lu Hong smiled and said, "I have to thank Qin Feiyang for that." "How is it related to him?" Fatso was stunned. Lu Hong said, "Didn't Qin Feiyang say that he and Brother Wolf were swallowed alive by the water beast in Iron Ox Town?" "Yeah." Fatso nodded. "When we were swallowed by the giant python, I immediately thought of the method he mentioned. So, Auntie Shui, and I grabbed the python's vital part. That's why it didn't swallow us. Otherwise, we would have died long ago." Lu Hong smiled. "I see." Fatso came to a sudden realization. He chuckled and said, "Then when will Fat Lord give it a try?" Ugh. The few of them were stunned, and then they couldn't help but roll their eyes. After entering the wooden building, Situ Hai was extremely busy. He made tea, cooked, and cleaned the room. In fact, people with their cultivation base didn't even need to eat. However, sometimes, it was a different feeling to be able to eat a simple meal. After the meal, it was already late at night. Everyone chatted for a while, then they went to the rooms on the second floor to rest. All these years, they had been cultivating in seclusion. It was rare for them to have a night's rest. Hence, they enjoyed this night's time. Qin Feiyang also entered a room. However, he went to the castle afterward to check on Wolf King and the pill hole master's injuries. Wolf King's heart had already recovered. However, the crack in his sea of qi still needed some time to heal. As for the pill hole master, his sea of consciousness was severely damaged. He had only recovered 20% of it. It was all thanks to the fire of life. Otherwise, he wouldn't have any hope of surviving. In the living room on the first floor, Fatso and Situ Hai sat opposite each other. There was a candle on the tea table. It was flickering with a weak light. Under the candlelight, Situ Hai's expression was uncertain. He seemed to be struggling with something. Suddenly, he raised his head and looked at Fatso. He said, "Jianyu, there's something I want to tell you privately." Fatso smiled and said, "Uncle Hai, just say it. Although the Situ family has already perished, we were still a rich and powerful family in the Cloud region. And you're the direct descendant of the Situ family. Plus, you've opened the door of potential. Black Dragon Fighting Soul. No matter if it's talent or potential, you're stronger than anyone else. Uncle Hai really doesn't want you to be so humble in front of others. Situ Hai said. Humble myself? Fatso was stunned. He said confusedly, when did I? You didn't. Then why are you so humble in front of Qin Feiyang? As the descendant of the Situ family, you must have integrity and pride. Do you understand? Situ Hai reprimanded. Ah. Fatso was shocked. He raised his head and looked at the stairs. Then, he looked at Situ Hai again. His expression became serious. Uncle Hai. I think you've misunderstood. I've been with boss for so long. He's never looked down on me. I've never been humble in front of others. It's because my character is like this. And all that I have now was given to me by boss. If I didn't meet him and without his help, I wouldn't have been able to open the door of potential and the Black Dragon Fighting Soul. You can even say that it's all because of him that I'm still alive today. Also, compared to boss's identity, I'm not even a 10,000th of him. So, I don't want to hear such words again. Fatso said. After hearing these words, Situ Hai's heart was in turmoil. A direct descendant of the Situ family was not even a 10,000th of him. Where did this person come from? Fatso said, I can't tell you boss's identity. You just have to remember that no one can afford to offend him. Situ Hai gulped and nodded. Alright, I won't say anything. I believe in your choice. That's right. Tell me, what happened after you came back? Fatso said. An old man and a young man chatted in the living room. Unknowingly, it was dawn. Fatso walked out of the room, took a deep breath of fresh air, and walked towards the cemetery alone. Lu Hong and Lin Yi also went downstairs one after another. They washed up and strolled around. Luo Qianxue went into the kitchen to help Situ Hai prepare breakfast for everyone. Time passed by just like that. Qin Feiyang and the others lived like mortals every day. The troubles of the past disappeared and were replaced by calmness. Their state of mind was also gradually changing. In the blink of an eye, 10 days passed. On this night, Qin Feiyang entered the ancient castle as usual to check on Wolf King and the Pill Hall Master's injuries. Wolf King's Sea of Qi had been repaired. He believed that he would wake up soon. The Pill Hall Master's Sea of Consciousness was just a little bit away. As expected. The next morning, Wolf King woke up. Qin Feiyang told it everything that happened during this period of time without holding anything back. After knowing about it, Wolf King felt happy for Fatso from the bottom of his heart. However, it suppressed its restless heart and didn't go out for a stroll. It stayed in the ancient castle and continued to cultivate. Because this situation had happened twice. The first time, it almost died when it fought with Zhao He. This time, it almost died when it fought with the Pill Hall Master. It was very angry. It finally made up its mind to not come out until it reached the War Master level. As long as it reached the War Master level, it wouldn't be in such a difficult situation when it faced a powerful enemy from the War Master again. That night, the Pill Hall Master's Sea of Consciousness was finally repaired. However, he hadn't woken up yet. Qin Feiyang immediately left the ancient castle and gathered Fatso and the others. Fatso also knew that it was time to leave. He went to the cemetery to bid farewell to his parents' souls. Then, the few of them left the valley under Situ Hai's gaze. Fatso also asked Situ Hai if he was willing to go to the spiritual state with him. However, Situ Hai refused again and again, saying that he wanted to stay and guard the cemetery. Late at night, the city gate of the continent city was very quiet. The 4 guards of the city gate gathered together, drinking wine and humming songs. They were enjoying themselves. Suddenly, a middle-aged man who was sleeping flew out from the forest outside the plain and flew towards the city gate. The 4 guards heard the movement and immediately looked up. However, they didn't have much reaction when they saw the middle-aged man flying away. However, they soon realized that something was wrong. The middle-aged man was almost at the city gate, but he didn't show any signs of stopping. Swoosh! The 4 of them suddenly stood up. One of the guards yelled, "Sir, stop immediately and be interrogated." However, the middle-aged man didn't react at all. Trespassers of the continent city, die. The 4's eyes turned cold. They immediately flew into the sky and charged towards the middle-aged man. However, when they saw the middle-aged man's face, their expressions changed. Pill Hall Master. What happened? Why did he fall asleep? The 4 of them quickly caught the Pill Hall Master and landed on the ground in front of the city gate. They were shocked. One of them observed for a moment and said, "His face is a bit pale. He's not sleeping. He's unconscious. And judging from the previous situation, someone threw him here." The person added, "Who are you? Please come out and meet us." The other 3 immediately looked up and scanned the sky above the plain. Their eyes were extremely sharp. They were filled with disbelief. The Pill Hall Master was the most powerful person in the cloud state. Who had the ability to injure him and make him unconscious? At the same time, in the forest, on a small hill, Qin Feiyang and the others stood side by side and looked towards the city gate. Fatso pouted and said, "Boss, you're letting the tiger return to the mountain. Be careful that you don't fall into his hands in the future." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "We'll talk about the future in the future. As for you, when are you going to come back next time?" Fatso's eyes turned cold and he said, "When I come back next time, it'll be their doomsday." Qin Feiyang smiled. He waved his hand and opened a portal. The group of people walked in one after another. Soon, the Pill Hall Master finally woke up. His eyes were filled with confusion. "Hall Master, are you all right? Who knocked you unconscious?" The 4 guards asked with concern. "Unconscious?" The Pill Hall Master stood up. His face was filled with suspicion. But then, many images appeared in his mind. He couldn't help but raise his hand and touch the top of his head. He was stunned. Then, he looked at the 4 guards and asked, "How did I come back?" The 4 guards explained the situation in detail. After listening, the Pill Hall Master was silent for a while. He looked up at the night sky and muttered, "Since you killed me, why did you save me?" The 4 guards looked at him in confusion. Chapter 548. Cloud State Inner Palace. A white-haired old woman stood at the plaza outside the Pill Fire Palace. She stared at the void in front of her with a gloomy gaze. She was the mansion master of Cloud State. Behind her, there were a dozen of people. Among them, there was the martial arts hall master, chief hall master, Xia family's ancestor, Xia Changfeng, and so on. In short, those who stood there were the top experts in Cloud State. But without exception, their faces were all gloomy. Swoosh! Suddenly, the Pill Hall Master appeared out of nowhere. When he saw the mansion master of Cloud State and the others, he was shocked. He landed on the plaza quietly and bowed, "Greetings, mansion master and chief hall master." The mansion master retracted her gaze and looked at the Pill Hall Master. "You're finally back. Do you know how long I've been waiting for you? Why are you waiting for me?" The Pill Hall Master was confused. The mansion master said angrily, "Don't you know that the elixir fire was snatched away?" It had been around 10 days since the elixir fire was snatched away. Although Qin Feiyang had used the reason that the Pill Hall's hall master was concocting pills to suppress the commotion, as time passed, this matter had reached the palace master's ears. At first, the mansion master didn't care about it. But when the pill fire palace didn't return to normal, she started to suspect. So, she came to the pill fire palace personally. In the end, she realized that not only was the pill hall master missing, even the elixir fire was gone. At first, she suspected that the pill hall master took it away. But when she heard the details from her disciples, she locked her target on Xia Hai. But Xia Hai had also disappeared without a trace. Even Xia family's Xia Changfeng didn't know where Xia Hai was. And the elixir fire was too important. A pill fire palace without the elixir fire wasn't the pill fire palace. So, she waited here. And she waited for a few days and nights. Finally, the pill hall master came back. What? There's such a thing. Who did it? Heard about it. The pill hall's hall master was surprised. Only your blood can open the secret door. I want to know who did it too. The mansion master said with a gloomy face. The pill hall master shook his head, I don't know. I've been out all this time. Then why didn't you reply when I sent you a message? The pill hall's hall master thought for a while and said, I'm sorry. My image crystal was accidentally broken. I can't receive your message. Shattered? The prefecture lord of Yun State sneered and waved his hand, search my body. Immediately. The martial arts hall master stepped forward. Seeing this, the pill hall's hall master couldn't help but sigh. He said, all right, I admit that I know about this. I also know who stole the alchemy fire. Who? The eyes of the Yun State mansion master turned cold. It's Xia Hai. The pill hall master said. It really is him. The Yun prefecture master was enraged. Why didn't you stop him? Don't tell me you can't stop a mere disciple. Yes. I can't stop it. He is not the real Xia Hai. Besides, Ma San was also impersonated by him. The real Xia Hai and Ma San are probably dead. As for his true identity, I don't know either, but he is very strong. That night at the White Horse Mountain, I fought with him. He pierced through my head, but he saved me. Previously, he sent me to the guards at the city gate. So, just now, I was compassionate. Prefecture Lord, I have nothing to say about the deception just now. I am willing to accept the punishment. The pill hall's hall master knelt on the ground. He lowered his head and closed his eyes, waiting for the Yun State mansion master to punish him. The Yun State mansion master lowered his head and looked at him. His expression was uncertain. He asked, where is he now? I really don't know. The pill hall's hall master shook his head. The Yun State mansion master looked at him deeply and didn't say anything else. He opened the teleportation door and left with a group of people. Phew. The pill hall's hall master let out a long breath. He stood up and looked at the night sky. He mumbled, we don't owe each other anything now. Don't do anything that will harm Yun State. Otherwise, I won't let you go. Actually, if he told the two most important points, it wouldn't be difficult for him to find out Qin Feiyang's true identity with his position as the Yun State mansion master. The first point was Wolf King. The second point was Qin Feiyang's ability to disappear into thin air. Of course. Even if the pill hall's hall master didn't say anything, the Yun State mansion master would be able to find out Qin Feiyang's identity if he expanded the scope. This was because Qin Feiyang exposed two characteristics in Yun State. First, an elixir pill with 3 elixir patterns. Second, the return formula's ability to give him a taste of his own medicine. These two characteristics were not common in the 9 states. The most important thing now was whether the Yun State mansion master would associate him with people from the other states. Would he expand the scope of his search to the spiritual state? Meanwhile, spiritual state, inner palace. The inner palace was dead silent in the middle of the night. Swoosh! Suddenly, a group of people appeared above the Pill Fire Palace. They were Qin Feiyang and the others. Lu Hong smiled and said, "You're finally back." "Yeah. Although I'm not from the spiritual state, after all these years, I have a sense of belonging to this place." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Lin Yi asked curiously, "Brother Feiyang, where are you from?" Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. To be honest, he didn't know if he should tell Lin Yi. Just as he was thinking about how to answer, suddenly, he looked at the gate of the Pill Fire Palace. He waved his hand and sent them into the castle. Just as they disappeared, a white figure walked out of the Pill Fire Palace. "It's him." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. This person was Lu Xingqian. Where was he going in the middle of the night? Swish! Qin Feiyang also flashed and entered the castle. Although it was late at night, there were no clouds in the sky. The full moon hung high in the sky. There was no shelter around, so they could only enter the castle. After Lu Xingqian left the Pill Fire Palace, he glanced around and flew towards the northwest. Soon, Qin Feiyang appeared again. He caught sight of Lu Xingqian's figure, then he restrained his aura and followed him. After a while, Lu Xingqian landed on an uninhabited mountain top. The mountain top was lush with vegetation. A black figure stood on the edge of the cliff. Lu Xingqian walked to the edge of the cliff, took out a jade box from his arms, and handed it to the black figure, saying, "This is the elixir you want." "Thank you." The black figure took the jade box with a rather excited expression. Lu Xingqian said, "Since you are following me, I will naturally not treat you badly. What about the thing I asked you to inquire about?" "No news." This Qin Feiyang seems to have disappeared from the face of the earth. It is said that the giants are also looking for him. The black figure shook his head. Lu Xingqian pondered for a while and said, "It seems that the giants have high hopes for him. That's because they are blind. No matter how powerful Qin Feiyang is, how can he be compared to you?" The black figure was disdainful. "It doesn't matter if you say this in front of me, but you must not say it in front of others. I don't want to attract attention now." Lu Xingqian said. "Understood." The black figure nodded. Lu Xingqian said nothing more and turned to fly towards the Pill Fire Palace. The black figure also rose into the air and flew towards the Cultivation Palace. After the two entered the Pill Fire Palace and the Cultivation Elixir, Qin Feiyang also walked out of the forest with a trace of doubt in his eyes. Who was the black figure? The voice was both familiar and unfamiliar to him. Also, why did Lu Xingqian want to investigate his whereabouts? What kind of elixir did Lu Xingqian give that person? But regardless of the reason, the more he looked at this Lu Xingqian, the more suspicious he felt. Lowering his head and pondering for a moment, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and opened a portal, landing in front of a canyon. In the canyon, a black hurricane whistled, emitting an astonishing aura. A rusty iron chain bridge spanned across the canyon, swaying violently like a leaf in the wind. That's right. This was the entrance to the land of ruins. Qin Feiyang stood at the edge of the canyon, looking at the bottomless black abyss, and said loudly, "Uncle Ren, please come out for a chat." Ren Duxing controlled this canyon, so he should be able to hear his voice. As expected. After only 10 breaths, a black figure flew out of the black hurricane and landed on the iron chain bridge. It was Ren Duxing. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "You're here." "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "There's something I need to tell you. Mu Tianyang is indeed still alive." Ren Duxing's eyes darkened. Qin Feiyang said again, "He appeared near the capital last time, but I don't know where he is now. If you know, he won't be Mu Tianyang, but, at this point." Ren Duxing frowned and pondered. Qin Feiyang asked, "But what?" "Judging from the way he's been hiding, his cultivation is indeed not as good as it used to be. I'm thinking that he might send someone to sneak into the inner palace to participate in the Battle of the Nine States. When this person wins the competition, he can use this person to enter the imperial capital. Ren Duxing said. How? Qin Feiyang frowned. The valley he is in is not an ordinary valley, but a divine artifact. This thing, like your hiding treasure, can be big or small, and has heaven-defying power. Ren Duxing said. Qin Feiyang said, you mean, someone will take this valley to the imperial capital after winning the competition? That's right. Now Mu Tianyang can't go to the imperial capital by himself, so he can only rely on others. Because the imperial capital and the spiritual state are not only far away, but the journey is also extremely dangerous. However, our attention can't be entirely focused on the spiritual state. It's also possible to go to the other 8 states. Ren Duxing said. The other 8 states? Qin Feiyang frowned, but after thinking about it carefully, he couldn't rule out this possibility. But this way, the target range would undoubtedly become larger. This was really a problem that gave him a headache. He rubbed his forehead, looked at Ren Duxing, and said, Uncle Ren, I don't want to get involved in this matter. Huh? Ren Duxing looked at him in surprise. I have my own things to do, and I don't have so much time to deal with Mu Tianyang. Besides, I'm just an insignificant person, and I really don't have the ability to deal with such a big matter that concerns the world. Qin Feiyang shook his head. His goal was only to return to the imperial capital to take revenge. After taking revenge, he would take his mother and leave the imperial capital. Chapter 549. Ren Duxing took a deep look at Qin Feiyang and nodded, if you really don't want to interfere, I can't force you, but I hope you can think about it again. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, thank you, Uncle Ren, for your understanding. I will definitely think about it seriously. Ren Duxing waved his hand and said with a smile, go, work hard and help me take care of Shuang. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and left through the portal. Sigh. When the portal disappeared, Ren Duxing couldn't help but let out a long sigh, his eyebrows full of helplessness. For a long time, being unable to leave this place had been a sore point for him. Because in this way, even if he knew everything, there was nothing he could do. But when he saw Qin Feiyang appear in the canyon, he immediately had a suitable candidate in his heart. Whether it was potential or intelligence, Qin Feiyang was undoubtedly the best choice. How could he shrink back halfway? He didn't know the reason why Qin Feiyang shrank back. But he knew that no one could stop Mu Tianyang's rise. Now he only hoped that this man could change his mind. Otherwise, the future of the great Qin Empire would inevitably set off a storm of blood. Even everything existing would change because of this. Qin Feiyang returned to the inner hall and went directly to the ancient castle instead of entering the alchemy room. Boss, are you really not going to interfere? Fatso frowned. To be honest, I thought that after Ren Duxing agreed, my heart would be very relaxed. But on the contrary, my heart is even heavier now. Perhaps, this is my destiny. Qin Feiyang sighed. Destiny? There is no such thing as destiny in this world. Although you said it very well, in Fat Lord's opinion, you can't let go of the great Qin Empire at all. Fatso pursed his lips. Lu Hong smiled and said, there is nothing to hesitate about. Everything is destined by the heavens, so let nature take its course. Qin Feiyang nodded. Now, this was the only way. Next. He walked to the front of the offering table, looked at the jade box containing the potential pill and 9 tunes yellow dragon pill, and fell into deep thought. A moment later. He opened the jade box and took out 2 potential pills and 2 9 yellow dragon pills. He turned to Fatso and said, go to the Sea of Despair. Fatso was slightly stunned. Looking at the pills in Qin Feiyang's hand, he suddenly understood. He smiled slyly and said, "Boss, Fat Lord can't do this for you. You have to do it yourself. Cut the crap." Qin Feiyang fiercely glared at him. Fatso chuckled and got up to grab the pill. He moved closer to Qin Feiyang's ear and said with a sinister smile, "If he knows about the existence of the mermaid princess, she will definitely be heartbroken. You have to think about how to tell her. You talk too much." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and left the castle with Fatso. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang sat cross-legged on the ground and prepared to cultivate. Seeing this, Lu Hong was stunned. She asked with a strange expression, "You're not going to see the old man?" This, Qin Feiyang hesitated for a moment and smiled embarrassedly, "Let's talk about it later. If you don't go, who's going to help erase the blood contract of the Pill Fire? You have to know that the Pill Hall Master is a 3-star war sect. Uncle Yen and Fan Jian definitely won't be able to help." Lu Hong pursed her lips and said as she pointed at the cluster of purple flames floating beside the nether devil flame. Qin Feiyang's face twitched and said helplessly, "Then let's wait for daybreak." Lu Hong held back her laughter and said, "There will be more people in the morning. It might be even more embarrassing then." In other words, if Qin Feiyang went to find the old man, he would definitely be beaten up. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but smile bitterly. "You're right. Let's go now." He sighed deeply, stood up, and left the castle. Lin Yi also opened her eyes and sighed faintly, "Why is Brother Feiyang hiding it from me?" Luo Qianxue patted her shoulder and comforted her, "Don't worry. When the time is up, he will naturally tell you." And Lin Yi nodded, but there was a touch of melancholy in her expression. Central City, Mansion Master's mansion. It was already late at night, but the old man hadn't rested yet. He sat alone in the pavilion in the courtyard, looking at the brilliant stars in the sky. There was a trace of melancholy in his eyes. Swish! Suddenly, a figure descended outside the courtyard. It was Qin Feiyang. The old man immediately noticed that someone came, but he didn't turn his head to look. He said with a displeased tone, "You came to find me in the middle of the night. Can't you guys stop?" Qin Feiyang looked at the old man suspiciously. He coughed and said, "I'm here to apologize." This voice, the old man immediately shuddered and turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang outside the courtyard. His old face suddenly showed anger. But then, the anger on his face disappeared, and a smile appeared on his face. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Come in." Qin Feiyang felt guilty, but he could only bite the bullet and walk in. As soon as he walked in front of the old man got up suddenly, raised his old hand, and slapped Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang couldn't dodge in time. But at this moment, swoosh! A black armored guard came through the air and landed at the courtyard door. He said respectfully, "Mansion Master, someone wants to see you. I will deal with you later." The old man's arm paused. He glared at Qin Feiyang fiercely, then looked at the guard and asked, "Who is it?" The black armored guard said, "It's a woman. I don't know, but she said she is an old friend of yours." "Old friend?" The old man frowned and said, "Bring her here." "No need, I'm already here." A hoarse voice suddenly sounded. This voice, Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. If he remembered correctly, this was the voice of the Yunzhou Mansion Master. Why was she in the spiritual state? Could it be that the old witch had already guessed his identity? Swish! As expected, a white-haired old woman flew through the night sky and landed outside the pavilion. The white-haired old woman glanced at Qin Feiyang, then looked at the old man and laughed, "Old man, long time no see." The black armored guard immediately shouted, "How dare you, don't be rude to the mansion master." The white-haired old woman turned to look at the guard, her old eyes flashing coldly. "You have no business here, leave." The old man waved his hand at the guard. Yes. The black-armored guard bowed and turned to leave. The old man also looked at the Yunzhou mansion master and said, "It has been a long time. If possible, it would be best if we never meet again." His words were very calm, as if he didn't like the Yunzhou mansion master. The white-haired old woman wasn't angry and smiled, "It's rare to see you, aren't you going to invite me, your old friend, to sit?" The old man returned to the stone bench and said calmly, "Sorry, this old man's temple is small and can't accommodate a big Buddha like you. If you have something to say, say it. If not, get lost immediately." Qin Feiyang's face twitched. This old man's words were really merciless. No matter how good-tempered the Yunzhou mansion master was, he would probably be angry. Besides, he didn't see how good-tempered this old witch was. Sure enough. The Yunzhou mansion master frowned and said, "It's not that I want to come here, but I'm here to investigate something that has a lot to do with your spiritual state." What a joke. Your Yunzhou and my spiritual state are thousands of miles apart, how can it be related? I'm telling you, don't come looking for trouble, or don't blame me for not showing mercy. The old man sneered. Ah. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He didn't seem to show mercy to this old witch from the beginning. The Yunzhou mansion master clenched his hands and suppressed the anger in his heart, saying, "The elixir fire of the Pill Fire Palace in Yunzhou was stolen, I suspect. Wait." The old man waved his hand and interrupted the Yunzhou mansion master, frowning, "Your elixir fire was stolen, why did you come to my spiritual state? Do you have nothing better to do?" "Nonsense, why would I come to you, old bastard? I'm telling you, I suspect that Qin Feiyang of your spiritual state stole our elixir fire." The Yunzhou mansion master's temper finally exploded. Qin Feiyang next to him also tensed up. Sure enough, he was suspected. Hearing this, the old man couldn't help but glance at Qin Feiyang, his old eyes flashing. But it was a bit aggressive. "Why are you looking at him? Call Qin Feiyang over, I want to interrogate him in front of you." The Yunzhou mansion master shouted. The old man pointed at Qin Feiyang and said calmly, "He is, you can interrogate him." The Yunzhou mansion master was stunned and turned to Qin Feiyang, frowning, "You are?" Qin Feiyang cupped his hands, "Greetings, senior, I am Qin Feiyang." The Yunzhou mansion master sized up Qin Feiyang and asked, "Do you know me?" Qin Feiyang was stunned, and said, "May I know senior's name?" The Yunzhou mansion master sneered, "Don't play dumb, you definitely know me. I'll give you a chance, give me your elixir fire immediately, and I'll let bygones be bygones for what you did in Yunzhou." Qin Feiyang was confused, "Senior, what are you talking about? When did I take your elixir fire? Still pretending?" The Yunzhou mansion master was furious and said coldly, "Then let me ask you, can you refine elixir pills with 3 elixir patterns? That's something that everyone knows." Qin Feiyang nodded. The Yunzhou mansion master said again, "Let me ask you again, did you master a battle art that can reflect the opponent's power?" "Yes, I did." Qin Feiyang nodded again. "All right, listen to me clearly. The person who took away my elixir fire could also refine elixir pills with 3 elixir patterns, and he also mastered such a battle art. From what I know, no one from the other big states has both of these conditions. Now that there's solid evidence, you still dare to say that you didn't do it?" The Yunzhou mansion master said angrily. As the lord of a state, he was indeed smart. Although the pill hall's hall master did not say anything, she thought about it carefully and connected all the clues together. On top of that, she also heard about the rumors about Qin Feiyang. Hence, her target was Qin Feiyang. Plus, when Qin Feiyang went to see Ren Duxing, she was already in the state capital. However, she didn't look for the old man directly. Instead, she went to the restaurant to check on Qin Feiyang. Chapter 550. If it were anyone else, they would have panicked and let the cat out of the bag under the questioning of the Cloud State Governor. But Qin Feiyang was calm. His mind was racing as he tried to come up with a solution. He didn't expect the Cloud State Governor to come looking for him so suddenly and so quickly. What's wrong? Guilty? You have nothing to say? The Cloud State Governor sneered. Guilty? Qin Feiyang looked helpless and said, Senior, forgive me for being blunt, but I don't know what you're talking about. How can I be guilty? The Cloud State Governor was furious. Senior, don't be so angry. Let me think about it first. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, if I'm not wrong, you're suspecting me because the elixir fire in the inner hall of the Cloud State was stolen and the elixir with 3 elixir patterns and a battle art that could reflect the opponent's power. That's right. The Cloud State Governor nodded. But Senior, I've never been to the Cloud State and I don't know where it is. Moreover, the 9 states are vast and there are many talents. Are you so sure that no one else can refine an elixir with 3 elixir patterns? No one else has a battle art that can reflect the opponent's attack. Senior, I can understand how you feel, but you can't be unreasonable and insist that it's me. You have to have proof. Qin Feiyang said with a wronged expression. The Cloud State Governor's face twitched. How dare he say that she was unreasonable? What an eloquent tongue. As the Cloud State Governor, I know the geniuses of the other states quite well. There's no such person. She held back her anger and gritted her teeth. Senior, you're the Cloud State Governor. I'm sorry for my rudeness. I apologize to you solemnly. However, Senior, we are now discussing the matter as it is, so don't blame Junior for being too harsh with his words. Senior, you're being too presumptuous. How should I put it? It's true that you're the Cloud State Governor and you know the geniuses of the other states. But Senior, have you thought about the countless geniuses in the 9 states? Some are high profile while others are low key. And for those low key people, even if they're standing in front of you, you won't know their talents and abilities. Why do you say no? Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, the Yun State Mansion Master was speechless for a moment. Senior, if you can show me proof, I'll let you. But if you can't, then you'll have to give me an explanation. After all, this is not a small matter. Qin Feiyang again. The governor of Cloud State looked gloomy. Only now did she realize that she shouldn't have come to the spiritual state. She had brought humiliation upon herself. A cold glint flashed in her eyes as she said in a low voice, previously, when I was in the restaurant, I heard that you had been missing for a long time. How do you explain that? Qin Feiyang paused and said helplessly, I've been cultivating in seclusion. I just didn't show myself in front of others. If you don't believe me, you can ask the old man. Of course, it's also because I'm too eye-catching. After not seeing me for a while, people couldn't help but make wild guesses. Qin Feiyang added. Narcissistic little slick. The old man couldn't help but roll his eyes. The Cloud State Governor was also speechless. But after hearing Qin Feiyang's words, she couldn't find any other suspicious points. No. There was another suspicious point. She looked at Qin Feiyang and said, if I'm not wrong, you're an 8-star combat emperor. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked in confusion, is there a problem? Of course. Because the person who stole the alchemy fire is also an 8-star combat emperor. The Cloud State Governor said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyang felt a chill in his heart and said angrily, Senior, there are 8-star combat emperors everywhere in the 9 continents. Can this be considered a reason? The Cloud State Governor lost his patience and shouted, they're both 8-star combat emperors and alchemists. They've also mastered the art of reflecting the opponent's attack. Is this a coincidence? Yes, there are very few such coincidences in the world. But I'll say it again. Just because you don't know, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The key is the evidence. I don't want to say anything more. If you have evidence, just take it out. If you don't talk nonsense here. Qin Feiyang said expressionlessly. He stood behind the old man and lowered his head in silence. The Cloud State Governor looked at Qin Feiyang and then at the old man. Don't look at me. During this period, Feiyang has been in seclusion. And he's in seclusion at my place. So what you said doesn't exist at all. The old man said lightly. The Cloud State Governor was silent for a while and said, if that's the case, then I'll have to bother you. What's wrong? Do you think you can leave after slandering the people of the spiritual state? The old man raised his eyebrows. What do you want? The Cloud State Governor's eyes turned gloomy. Feiyang is just a child. His mind is still very fragile. He must be very upset after being wronged by you. Shouldn't you give him some compensation? I'll say it here. If you can't settle this today, I'll go to the capital 3 months later and complain to the emperor about you. The old man sneered. The Cloud State Governor was furious, but he didn't know how to refute. In the end, she took out a jade scroll from her chinquan pouch and threw it on the stone table. Then she opened a portal and left angrily. Qin Feiyang saw the jade scroll and his eyes lit up. He reached out to grab it. But then, the governor slapped his arm and said angrily, you caused so much trouble for me and you still want this jade scroll? Qin Feiyang rubbed his arm and said sadly, I didn't cause any trouble. Humph. The governor snorted and said, then tell me now. Did you take away the alchemy fire in the inner hall of the Cloud State? If you dare to lie, don't even think about participating in the battle of the 9 states. Well, Qin Feiyang frowned and said helplessly, okay, I admit it. I took it. You really? The governor stood up and glared at Qin Feiyang, but then he smiled brightly and patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder. He nodded and said, you're good. Ah. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He thought the old man would be furious and teach him a lesson. He didn't expect the old man to praise him. What was going on? Was the old man's brain cramping? The old man sneered and said, this woman is not a good person. I'm very satisfied with what you did. Oh. Qin Feiyang understood. It seemed that there was an irreconcilable grudge between the old man and the governor of Cloud State. Actually, I didn't want you to go to Cloud State not because I was afraid that you would cause trouble, but because I was afraid that you would die there. Because that woman is very vicious. The Situ family, which was once loyal to her, was destroyed by her in the end because of a scoundrel's instigation. The old man said with a strong hatred in his eyes. Qin Feiyang looked at him curiously and asked, you know about the Situ family too? Of course I do. The ancestor of the Situ family is my close friend. When I heard the bad news of his death, I was very angry. The last time I went to the imperial capital, I even mentioned it to the emperor. But this woman was full of excuses. The emperor was high and mighty and didn't want to care about this. Then, the matter was left unsettled. I'm also powerless. The old man sighed. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly realized that this was the reason why the old man didn't like the governor of Cloud State. He smiled and said, the Situ family is not actually extinct. There is still a descendant alive. Who? The old man looked at him in surprise. You've seen him before, but he's not here now. Qin Feiyang said. I've seen him before. The old man was surprised. Buzz. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's image crystal made a sound. When he took it out, Fatso's image quickly appeared. Fatso smiled and said, Boss, it's done. Where are you now? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, I'm at the old man's place. I happened to mention you. Come over quickly. Mention me? Fatso was stunned. After turning off the image crystal, he arrived in the courtyard in less than 3 breaths. Qin Feiyang patted Fatso's shoulder and looked at the old man. The person I was talking about is him. The old man immediately looked at Fatso. Qin Feiyang said, Fatso is a descendant of the Situ family. He's also the son of the patriarch. This time, he's going to Cloud State mainly to pay respects to his family. Really? The old man looked at Fatso and asked. Fatso was a little confused. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang also told Fatso that the old man and the Situ family's patriarch were close friends. The patriarch and the old man are old acquaintances. Fatso was shocked. This was really unexpected. When he came back to his senses, he nodded and said to the old man, I'm indeed a descendant of the Situ family. Great! The old man was quite excited. He said, work hard. You must clear your patriarch's name. I definitely will. Fatso clenched his fists. His eyes were filled with an extremely determined light. The old man nodded and asked, is there anyone else in the Situ family who's still alive? Only the butler and I are left. It was the butler who sent me to the spiritual state back then. Fatso said in disappointment. It's been hard on you. The butler is too much. It's not like he doesn't know my relationship with your patriarch. He should have sent you directly to me back then. You wouldn't have to wander outside. The old man sighed. Maybe the butler didn't want to cause trouble for you. Maybe it's because I wasn't talented back then. He wanted me to be an ordinary person and live an ordinary life in the spiritual state. However, I have to thank him for not doing so back then. Because that way, I wouldn't have met the boss in Black Bear City. Now, I won't have such achievements. Fatso smiled. That's true. The two of you might have been fated to meet. Tell me, other than taking away the alchemy fire, what else did you do in Cloud State? The mansion master asked. Qin Feiyang and the old man immediately looked at each other and smiled. Fatso chuckled. Actually, we didn't do much. We just killed Commander Nye. Ah. The old man was shocked. Of course, he knew about Commander Nye. He was a genuine combat master. Qin Feiyang continued, other than the alchemy fire in the inner palace, we also took away another type of fourth-grade alchemy fire. What? The old man's eyes widened. Fatso continued, we killed all the 7-star combat emperors and 8-star combat emperors in the inner palace. Even a 9-star combat emperor died. Immediately. The old man's face couldn't help but twitch. We didn't do anything. Fatso chuckled. Actually, we're still keeping a low profile. We could have killed the Pill Hall Master, but the boss let him go. Ah. The old man was shocked again. This is considered keeping a low profile? That's not right. Suddenly. He looked at Qin Feiyang and frowned. Why did you take so many alchemy fires? Chapter 551. What? The old man was shocked. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The Nether Devil Flame and the Purple Alchemy Fire appeared at the same time. The Nether Devil Flame is already 4th grade now. After devouring this alchemy fire, it can be upgraded to 5th grade. So, old man, please help me to erase the blood contract in this alchemy fire. Qin Feiyang pleaded. The mansion master looked at the Nether Devil Flame suspiciously. He released his battle chi and pounced towards the purple alchemy fire. At the same time, Cloud State's inner palace. The Pill Hall Master's body trembled. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. The blood contract has been erased. Who exactly are you? Who's the person behind you? He mumbled to himself. He didn't have the status of Cloud State's mansion master. Hence, he didn't know much about the other states. At the moment, he didn't suspect Qin Feiyang. In the courtyard. As soon as the blood contract of the purple alchemy fire was erased by the old man, the nether devil flame recovered and pounced towards the purple alchemy fire. Very soon, the purple alchemy fire disappeared. At the same time, the aura of the nether devil flame soared. It finally upgraded to a 5-star alchemy fire. It can really upgrade its grade. The old man was engrossed in watching. He didn't know that there was such a magical alchemy fire in the world. Qin Feiyang kept the nether devil flame in the castle. He looked at the old man and said, "If there's nothing else, we'll leave first." Leave? The old man came back to his senses. His eyes turned cold and he said, "Although I sided with you guys in front of the mansion master, it doesn't mean that I'm not angry." Qin Feiyang and the old man looked at each other. They had an ominous feeling in their hearts. "Wang Hong!" The old man suddenly shouted. Whoosh! After a while, Wang Hong broke through the air and arrived. The moment he saw Qin Feiyang and Qin Yu, a trace of anger crept up between his brows. He held back his anger and looked at the old man respectfully. "Sir, what can I do for you?" "Lock them in the prison. Before the battle of the 9 states starts, don't let them leave. Guard it personally for this old man. Remember, don't let them escape this time." Old Master said. "Yes." Wang Hong nodded. He turned around and looked at Qin Feiyang and Xiao Chen. He said expressionlessly, "Let's go." Fatso looked at the jade slip on the stone table with shifty eyes and asked cautiously, "Then this jade slip, scram." Before he could finish, the old man shouted angrily. Fatso immediately shrank his neck in fear and looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang also looked helpless. Then, the two of them turned into a stream of light and flew toward the prison. Along the way, Wang Hongdu's face was dark and he didn't say a word to the two of them. "You're the commander of a province after all. How can you be so petty?" Fatso could not help but mutter. "What? I'm petty?" Wang Hong immediately stopped and turned to glare at Fatso. "Huh," Fatso laughed dryly. Qin Feiyang also couldn't help but glare at Fatso. Wang Hong was already in a bad mood. Wouldn't he be asking for trouble if he said that? Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Hong and said with a smile, "Senior, don't. I really don't deserve to be called senior." Wang Hong said indifferently before turning around and continuing to fly towards the prison. Qin Feiyang's heart was bitter. When they arrived at the prison, Li Duo and the others who were guarding the prison could not help but be stunned. "Why are you here again?" Guard Captain Li Duo asked instinctively. "Again?" Fatso was instantly furious and roared, "Do you think Fat Lord wants to come to this damn place?" "Ah!" Li Duo and the others were stunned. Wang Hong shouted impatiently, "Why are you talking so much nonsense? Open the door." "Yes." Li Duo quickly turned around, opened the prison door, and led Qin Feiyang and the other two to the 7th cell. When the stone door of the cell was opened, Wang Hong said, "Go in, don't run around, or don't blame me for breaking your legs." The two of them walked into the cell helplessly. Li Duo looked at the two of them strangely and asked, "Commander, do you want to put iron shackles on them?" "No need." Wang Hong said. Li Duo was stunned for a moment and understood what was going on. Just as Wang Hong was about to turn around and leave, Qin Feiyang suddenly thought of Zhao He and said, "Senior, is there any problem with Zhao He during this period of time?" "No." Wang Hong said coldly and turned to walk out of the prison. However, he did not leave. He sat cross-legged in front of the prison door and closed his eyes to rest. Seeing this, Li Duo and the others looked at each other. He actually had to trouble Wang Hong to personally guard here. This Qin Feiyang was really a troublemaker. In the cell, Fatso glanced around the cell and said angrily, "Fat Lord, why do I feel that we have a special affinity with this damn place?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "Anyway, there's nothing to do now. It doesn't matter where we stay. You're quite open-minded." Fatso pursed his lips, but then said with a sly smile, "What do you think that old witch's expression is now?" Qin Feiyang smiled. That jade slip was at most a superior battle art. A superior battle art was definitely nothing in the eyes of the lord of a state, so Qin Feiyang did not take it to heart. However, this was a matter of face. The Yunzhou prefecture lord was here to denounce them. However, in the end, not only did he not get anything out of her, but he also gave her a battle art. This was undoubtedly a great humiliation for her. Needless to say, her mood must be very bad right now. "By the way, how is she?" Qin Feiyang asked. This "she" was naturally referring to the mermaid princess. "Not bad, just a little." Fatso moved closer to Qin Feiyang's ear and said with a chuckle, "I miss you." Qin Feiyang sighed deeply, walked to the stone bed, sat on it, took out a battle chi pill, and began to cultivate with his eyes closed. He really did not dare to think about these personal matters before he took revenge. The most important thing now was to improve his strength as quickly as possible and prepare for the great battle of the 9 states. The next morning. On a mountain peak deep in the mountains outside the city. 2 figures stood side by side. One of them was an old man with white hair, but his face was ruddy and he looked very energetic. His whole body also exuded an ethereal aura. The other person was a middle-aged man. He was 7 feet tall and his body was quite thin. He was wearing a long white robe, and there were a few strands of white hair at his temples. He was full of vicissitudes of life. His dark eyes were also very spirited, and there was a great majesty in them. The white-haired old man asked, "Is Feiyang back?" The middle-aged man nodded and said with a smile, "He's back, but the prefecture lord put him in prison again. That child really doesn't stop at all." The white-haired old man shook his head helplessly, but there was a trace of doting between his brows. The middle-aged man smiled and said, "This is Qin Feiyang, isn't it?" The white-haired old man nodded and said, "Continue to stay in the city and protect him secretly, but it's best not to have too much contact with him. Because with his intelligence, he might be able to see through your identity as long as you reveal any clues." "I know." The middle-aged man nodded and asked, "Have you found out the origin of that mysterious valley?" "Yes, it's Mu Tianyang." At the mention of Mu Tianyang's name, the white-haired old man's expression was unimaginably calm, as if he did not take it to heart at all. Mu Tianyang. The middle-aged man was stunned. Mu Tianyang is the emperor of the previous Heavenly Sun Empire. Back then, our first emperor was kind and merciful, and did not destroy his soul. But who would have thought that not only is he ungrateful, but he is also recruiting soldiers to overthrow the great Qin Empire. He doesn't even know if he has the ability to do so now. The white-haired old man sneered. The middle-aged man said in surprise, "Then why don't you get rid of him now?" "There are some things that I don't need to do." The white-haired old man said meaningfully before disappearing into thin air. The middle-aged man frowned and also opened a teleportation gate to leave. Time flew. The Great War of the 9 States finally began. This morning. Inner Palace. The disciples of the Pill Fire Palace and the Cultivation Palace all walked out and gathered in the square. Everyone was hale and hearty, and their fighting spirit was high. Among them, 3 were the most dazzling. They weren't brought along with the others. They were like brilliant stars, standing separately in the void. One of them was Dong Zhenyang. As for the other 2, one was a muscular young man, and the other was a thin young man. The muscular young man had a head of thick black short hair. He was taller than ordinary people and was at least 2 meters tall. He was like a small giant. His feet were bare, and his upper body was exposed. His skin was bronze in color, and his muscles were bulging. He was filled with explosive power. He wore a pair of black leopard skin pants and his eyes were like those of a tiger, exuding a wild aura. As for the thin young man, he was extremely handsome. He was about 1.8 meters tall and wore a long white robe that was spotless. His long black hair fluttered in the wind. He even held an exquisite jade flute in his hands. He looked elegant with an outstanding aura. Many female disciples looked at him with infatuation. Without a doubt. This person and the muscular young man were the two kings of the inner palace who had never shown themselves. At the same time, Ren Wuxiang was also in the square. However, he did not look at Dong Zhengyang and the other two from the beginning. He scanned the crowd, as though he was searching for something. Shen Mei stood beside him. Seeing Ren Wuxiang looking around, Shen Mei covered her mouth and laughed. You seem to be too concerned about that cheap brother of yours. What nonsense are you talking about? Ren Wuxiang blushed and glared at Shen Mei. Am I talking nonsense? But then again, that kid is so outstanding. If it were me, I would also like him. After all, we should keep the goodies within the family. Shen Mei joked. Ren Wuxiang said with a dark face, don't get more and more ridiculous. I only treat him as a brother. Is that so? Shen Mei looked at him doubtfully. Seeing that Ren Wuxiang was about to go crazy, Shen Mei hurriedly waved her hand and said, okay, I won't say any more. Don't worry, he will definitely come. Suddenly, she felt a gaze locked on her. Looking over, she immediately saw Lu Xingchen looking at her. Immediately, she panicked a little. Ren Wuxiang noticed her abnormality. He looked at Lu Xingchen and frowned slightly. He then grabbed Shen Mei's hand and whispered, it has been so long. Don't think too much. Shen Mei nodded. Swish. Right at this moment, 4 figures appeared in the sky above the inner palace hall. Greetings to the mansion master. Greetings to the chief hall master. Greetings to the pill hall master. Greetings to the martial arts hall master. All the disciples knelt down and kowtowed. Chapter 552. After the old man and the other 3 arrived at the inner hall, more than a dozen people followed. Among them was the pavilion master of the treasure pavilion. The castellans of the 4 major districts. Among the 10 commanders, only Wang Hong hadn't arrived yet. In short, almost all the big shots of the spiritual state were here, which showed how much importance they attached to the battle of the 9 states. Looking at the disciples below, the old man's face was full of smiles as he said, rise. The disciples of the 2 halls stood up. The battle of the 9 states is about to begin. This old man believes that you are more excited than this old man. After all, this is the only chance to enter the imperial capital. Once you enter the imperial capital, both your identity and status will rise overnight. I'm afraid that even this old man will have to bow to you when I see you. The old man laughed. Hearing the old man's slightly teasing words, everyone couldn't help but laugh. The old man shook his head and said, don't laugh, because this old man is telling the truth. The thin young man standing in the void said, Master, even if we are lucky enough to enter the imperial capital, we won't forget your kindness in nurturing us. Yes. If it weren't for the nurturing of the master and the 3 hall masters, how could we have today's achievements? We will never forget your great kindness. All the disciples bowed. The old man and the others couldn't help but have a smile on their faces. Although they knew that these disciples were just saying polite words, they felt comfortable listening to them. This old man is deeply gratified that you have such a heart, but, at this point, the old man paused and his face became very serious. Seeing this, everyone immediately shut up and fell into a dead silence. Although you all have a chance to enter the imperial capital, the premise is that you have to survive. This old man can tell you that the battle of the 9 states is very cruel. In the past, less than 1/10 of the people survived. The old man said. What? Less than 1/10? Everyone was shocked. Are you surprised by this? This old man will tell you something even more shocking. In the previous battle of the 9 states, only 4 people from the spiritual state came back alive. The old man said. Hearing this, everyone's heart instantly became incomparably heavy. These 4 people are the current Grand Hall Master of the Sacred Palace, the Chief Pavilion Master of the Precious Treasure Pavilion, and Commander Wang Hong, whom you are familiar with. The last one is me. Although we survived that year, we didn't win, but in the end, we became the rulers of the spiritual state. This old man isn't saying this to show off, nor is it because I want to get your cheers. This old man wants to tell you that there is only hope if you survive. In the 9 Prefectures' Great War, you have to treat your own life as more important than anything else. The old man said. Yes. Everyone bowed. Pavilion Master. This old man has already explained everything that needs to be explained. I won't say any more nonsense. I wish you all the best. After the old man finished speaking, he retreated to the side. Everyone looked at each other, but in the end, no one said anything. Looking at everyone's reaction, the martial arts hall master raised his eyebrows and said, Since you don't want to quit, then get ready to go. I think it's better for those who are below the 9-star combat emperor to not go, because they will only die in vain. But at this moment, a calm voice sounded. Swoosh! Following that, 3 figures appeared out of thin air. They were Wang Hong, Qin Feiyang, and Fatso. 3 months had passed. Fatso had broken through to the 8-star combat emperor and caught up with Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's cultivation didn't break through, but he had improved a lot. It's Qin Feiyang. He really came. Everyone was shocked. A trace of a smile crept onto Ren Wuxuang's peerless face. Humph. Qin Feiyang, what do you mean? We will die in vain if we go. What about you? You haven't reached the 9-star combat emperor yet, right? Suddenly, someone said in a gloomy voice. Qin Feiyang looked down and saw Su Yang and Wu Yan staring at him coldly. I'm telling the truth. It's up to you whether you want to listen or not. Qin Feiyang was helpless. Not to mention the other provinces, just Mo Wushan and the others in Yun province. Except for Dong Zhengyang, no one was their match. That was why he suggested that those who weren't a 9-star combat emperor shouldn't go. Because those who were below the 9-star combat emperor were simply courting death. Speaking of which, he had good intentions. Truth. I think you're looking down on everyone. Qin Feiyang, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't be too arrogant. Su Yang and Wu Yan sneered. Hearing this, the others were furious. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said, All right, just pretend that I didn't say anything. Su Yang and Wu Yan were obviously fanning the flames to make him the target of public criticism. It was really a thankless task. If he knew it would be like this, he would never have made this suggestion. Su Yang didn't mind and sneered, words are like spilled water. Can you take it back? Fat Lord has a bad temper. Yes, we're arrogant. What can you do about it? You don't agree? Come, let's compete. Fat Lord happens to have the time to teach you how to behave. You can come at me together. Fat Lord won't refuse. Fatso was burning with anger. These two simply didn't know what was good for them. Damn it. Even this damn Fatso is so arrogant. Senior brother Wu Yan, senior brother Su Yang, quickly teach him a lesson and extinguish his arrogance. Someone said angrily. Yes. Fat Lord is so arrogant. Whoever doesn't agree can come at him. Fatso looked down in all directions, looking like he was going to fight a group of heroes. But at this moment, the martial arts hall master frowned and shouted, Stop fooling around. Get out. What are you doing? The fatty glanced at him from the corner of his eyes filled with disdain. Since he wanted to be arrogant, he would be arrogant to the end. Moreover, he had long been dissatisfied with this martial arts hall master. Crack. The martial arts hall master clenched his fists tightly. Preposterous. How dare you be rude to the hall master? You're asking for a beating. Wu Yan and Su Yang's aura exploded as they rushed towards Fatso at the same time. Yeah. Qin Feiyang was surprised. The aura of the two was actually stronger than before. They were actually 8-star war emperors. He remembered that when they first entered the inner hall, the two of them were only 7-star war emperors. It turned out that they had both broken through. No wonder they dared to provoke him again and again. It seemed that these two wanted to take the opportunity to take revenge on Qin Feiyang for forcing them to lick the water that washed his feet. However, although their cultivation had some breakthroughs, Fatso's improvement was even greater. Are they really going to attack together? Fatso hid behind Qin Feiyang in a panic. Weren't you very arrogant just now? Why did you become a coward all of a sudden? Damn fat pig, don't say such harsh words if you don't have the ability. Get lost quickly, don't be a disgrace here. The crowd below immediately jeered and ridiculed. Su Yang and Su Yang also stopped in the void, proud of their success. TSK, TSK, TSK. Fatso was speechless as he walked out from behind Qin Feiyang. He glanced at the crowd below in disdain and looked at Su Yang and Su Yang. It's just a small joke. Look at how proud you are, your tails are almost in the sky. Small joke. How dare you trick us? Unforgivable. Su Yang and Su Yang were furious. Battle chi surged. Above Wu Yan's head, a giant peak instantly condensed, emitting a heavy aura. In the void above Su Yang's head, a fiery red disk also appeared, like a scorching sun, illuminating the sky. Damn! He actually used a battle art. Is there a need to be so serious? Fatso's pupils contracted, looking a little timid. Trash! Seeing this, the martial arts hall master didn't stop them. Instead, he took a few steps back, giving the three of them a battlefield. His eyes were filled with a cold smile and disdain. Don't run if you have the guts. Su Yang and Su Yang shouted coldly. Boom! Almost at the same time, the giant peak and the disc whizzed out, carrying a shocking aura, and blasted towards Fatso. Run! Fatso straightened his back and said disdainfully, in Fat Lord's dictionary, the word run does not exist. But as soon as he finished speaking, he immediately turned around and hid behind Qin Feiyang. He smiled and said, Boss, you do it. Qin Feiyang's forehead was instantly filled with a row of black lines. He said angrily, can't you be a little more promising? It was simply a disgrace to him. Fatso suppressed his voice and said seriously, you misunderstood. Fat Lord is not a little more promising. Fat Lord just doesn't want to expose his strength too early. Get lost. Qin Feiyang glared at him and raised his head to look at the giant peak and disc. His eyes suddenly turned cold, and he pointed his index finger in the air. The third move of the void returning art, splitting sky. An invisible force suddenly roared out and pounced over with an earth-shattering force. Boom! Crack! Accompanied by two deafening noises, the giant peak and the round plate instantly shattered. Puff! Su Yang and Su Yang also spat out a mouthful of blood. Boss, you can rest now. Next, the wise and mighty Fat Lord will end this boring confrontation. Fatso took a step out from behind Qin Feiyang and flew towards Su Yang and Su Yang in high spirits. He roared, you two small fries, tremble in fear. As soon as he stepped forward, he slapped the two of them in the face. The two of them were immediately stunned. But they weren't stunned by the slap. They were angered by Fatso's shamelessness. Blockheads like you dare to challenge Fat Lord? Fatso's face was full of disdain. He clenched his fists and took the opportunity to punch the two in the stomach. Ah! The two of them screamed and were directly sent flying. Blood spurted out of their mouths. Who else is not convinced? Fatso looked at the two of them in disdain and then glanced at the crowd below. His arrogant look made people gnash their teeth in anger. Clown! Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly. Ren Wushuang, who was in the crowd below, couldn't stop his cheeks from twitching. After so many years, Fatso's character didn't change at all. Instead, he became more and more shameless and wretched. No one dares to go up. If you can't even defeat Fat Lord, who dares to participate in the 9 states tournament? Isn't that a joke? Fatso smiled disdainfully. Have you had enough? The martial arts hall master couldn't stand it anymore. He originally wanted Su Yang and Su Yang to give Fatso and Qin Feiyang some trouble. But he didn't expect the two of them to be so useless and defeated in one move. Chapter 553. The mansion master smiled faintly and said, "Let them do it if they want to." The martial arts hall master looked at the old man in disbelief and said, "My lord, aren't you indulging them?" The old man smiled but didn't say anything. The martial arts hall master frowned. At this moment, the pill hall master sighed, "Some people's IQ is really worrying." "Who are you talking about?" The martial arts hall master raised his eyebrows and looked at him unkindly. "Who knows? My lord, letting them do whatever they want has nothing to do with indulging them. My lord wants to take this opportunity to observe everyone's strength so that he can pick someone to be the leader. After all, the 9 prefectures war isn't a child's play. If we're like a plate of loose sand now, we won't have any chance of winning." The pill hall master said faintly. "So that's why." The martial arts hall master murmured. The pill hall master said playfully, "You can't even think of this. Don't you think you're stupid?" The martial arts hall master was furious. "Enough. There are so many disciples here. Can't you guys stop and set a good example?" The colorful clothed lady yelled. The pill hall master and the martial arts hall master went silent. However, the disciples below were in an uproar. Because the pill hall master didn't hide what he said intentionally. Everyone heard it. Everyone was guessing. Who would be the leader in the end? One must know. Leader wasn't just a title. There were many benefits involved. Most importantly, he could order everyone around him. At the same time, Qin Feiyang was also hesitating. Should he snatch the leader's position? Although he could maximize his benefits if he became the leader, it would also attract a lot of trouble. And he hated trouble the most. At this moment, Su Yang and the martial arts hall master steadied themselves and wiped the blood from the corner of their mouth. They immediately looked at Fatso. Their eyes were cold and piercing. "Why? You still want to play?" Fatso glanced at them from the corner of his eyes. Wu Yan said in a deep voice, "If you have the guts, don't hide behind Qin Feiyang. Fight us fair and square." Fatso said confidently, "You call this hiding? This is a tactic. Do you understand? Bastard. There's a limit to your shamelessness." The two were furious. Boom. Behind him, 2 enormous beings soared into the sky. Similar to their battle arts, there was also a towering mountain and a fiery red disk. However, the difference was that the aura it exuded was much stronger than that of a battle art. That was right. This was their fighting soul. They had even activated their fighting souls, which showed how angry they were. Oh my God! When Fatso saw that the two of them had activated their fighting souls, he let out a strange cry. Without hesitation, he turned around and slipped behind Qin Feiyang. What a fucking bitch! Seeing this scene, many people couldn't help but have the thought of ruthlessly beating up the fatty. This included Dong Zhengyang, the brawny man, and the skinny young man. Dong Zhengyang was actually a little better. After all, he had interacted with Fatso before. As for the burly man and the skinny young man, although they were usually in seclusion, they had heard of Fatso's deeds. However, what he saw with his own eyes was completely different from what he had heard before. They couldn't figure out how there could be such a shameless person in the world. Did Fatso know how to write the word shame? Without a doubt. Su Yang and the skinny young man were even more furious and their lungs were about to explode. Clang! Boom! The two war souls roared in the sky as they charged at Fatty with overbearing momentum. They were confident in their own fighting souls. Even Qin Feiyang would not be able to block them. However, they soon understood that things in the world were often not as simple as they thought. Qin Feiyang only raised his arm and pointed his index finger in the air. An invisible force was like a torrent of beasts, covering the sky and earth. The fourth move of the Void End skill, Void End. Boom! After a few breaths of time, the two fighting souls and the invisible force collapsed at the same time. Qin Feiyang's body trembled slightly and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. However, Su Yang and the skinny young man were sent flying again and their faces were as pale as paper. Huh, did you see that? That's the difference between us. Fatso immediately stood up with his hands on his hips and laughed proudly. Qin Feiyang frowned and said angrily, "Enough, stop fooling around." After saying that, he retreated to the side and remained silent. This was because when he was fighting with Su Yang and the skinny young man, he had decided not to compete for the position of team leader. On the one hand, he was afraid of trouble. On the other hand, he did not want to spend time taking care of these ignorant people. Fatso smiled bitterly and stood obediently beside Qin Feiyang. The old master looked at Qin Feiyang and could not help but frown. In his heart, Qin Feiyang was the best choice for team leader. However, it was obvious that Qin Feiyang did not have this intention. Otherwise, he would not have taken the initiative to stop now. Ahem. After a dry cough, the old master looked at Su Yang and the skinny young man and said, "Both of you, stop. Now, who is the most suitable team leader?" Since the estate master had spoken, Su Yang and the skinny young man naturally did not dare to continue arguing. However, they were still very unhappy in their hearts. "I support senior brother Dongfang Wuhan." Wu Yan was the first to speak. "I also support senior brother Wuhan to be the team leader." Su Yang also spoke. "I also support him, because only senior brother Wuhan can take on such a heavy responsibility." "That's right, I also support him." The group of disciples below began to jeer. "Thank you for your love, but I am really powerless. Please choose someone else." The skinny young man immediately cupped his hands and smiled. "So his name is Dongfang Wuhan. Is he Dongfang Yu's clansman?" Qin Feiyang murmured. "In fact, I think senior brother Murong Xiong can also be the team leader this time." "I don't agree. Although senior brother Murong Xiong is the king of the inner hall, to put it bluntly, he is all brawn and no brains. I think senior brother Dong Zhengyang is qualified to do so, because he has both brains and strength. Even so, senior brother Dong Zhengyang is just a newly promoted king after all. He can't be compared with senior brother Murong Xiong and senior brother Dongfang Wuhan. I don't care. Anyway, they are all kings. It doesn't matter who is the team leader." Everyone was talking about it. Their eyes were all on Dong Zhengyang and the other two. However, as the three people involved, they didn't express any opinions and kept silent. "I support Qin Feiyang." At this time, an exceptionally loud voice rang out. The whole place suddenly fell silent. Everyone looked at the person who spoke. Qin Feiyang also looked over. The person who spoke was actually Lu Xingchen. If we put aside all prejudices, no one can deny that Qin Feiyang is definitely the first candidate with his talent, brains, and means. The most important thing is that he can refine the best pills that others can't. This will be of great help to our victory. Lu Xingchen said with a smile. This point can't be denied. But Qin Feiyang is too selfish. If he is the team leader, I'm afraid he will be the only one who benefits in the end. As for us, we will all become cannon fodder. So, I firmly oppose. Wu Yan and Su Yang said. The others also nodded one after another, expressing their agreement. Lu Xingchen said with a faint smile, I'm just telling the truth. Whether you choose him or not is your business. After that, he closed his mouth and didn't say another word. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Xingchen with deep meaning and said lightly, I'm not interested. You guys take your time to choose. Even if you are interested, we won't choose you. Su Yang sneered. Clown, fat lord. Let's see how long you can jump. Qin Feiyang's face was very calm, without the slightest ripple, but Fatso's eyes flashed with a cold light. After some debate, the final candidate for the team leader was finally finalized, and it was Dongfang Wuhan. First, Dongfang Wuhan's strength was the strongest in the inner palace, and the brawny man Murong Xiong was also inferior to him. Second, Dongfang Wuhan was also an alchemist, and his talent was not worse than Lu Xingchen's. But the old man was not very satisfied with Dongfang Wuhan, who was expected to be the team leader. However, this was everyone's decision, and he couldn't say much. The old man said, in this battle of the 9 states, Commander Wang Hong and the current castellan of the East City, Jiang Qianqing, will escort you. You must listen to them. Yes. Everyone responded. Jiang Qianqing. Qin Feiyang was a little stunned. Wang Hong's escort wasn't out of his expectations. After all, Wang Hong was the strongest existence in the spiritual state besides the old man, and he could better ensure everyone's safety. However, he was surprised that Jiang Qianqing would be the escort. Although Jiang Qianqing's status was not low, he was still the castellan and had nothing to do with the holy sanctum. Why did he have to escort them? At the same time, the old man looked at the Grand Hall Master and the others and asked, Do you have anything else to say? No. The Grand Hall Master and the others shook their heads. Then let's go. The old man waved his hand and opened a portal in the void. Wang Hong took the lead to walk to the portal, looked at the disciples of the 2 palaces, and said, I will say one last thing. I have personally experienced the battle of the 9 states and know how cruel it is. It is not too late to regret now, but once you step into the portal, your fate will no longer be in your hands. Think carefully. After that, Wang Hong turned and walked into the portal. Jiang Qianqing did not go in, but stood beside the portal and glanced at everyone. Hearing Wang Hong's words, some disciples began to hesitate. But there were also people who entered the portal without hesitation. For example, Dong Jingyang, Dongfang Wuhan, Murong Xiong, Lu Xingchen, Wu Yan, Su Yang, and so on. As people entered the portal one by one, the number of people in the inner palace kept decreasing. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang found a familiar figure in the crowd. It was Xiang Xiaolong. Why was he in the inner palace? When he first met Xiang Xiaolong had just broken through to the 9-star battle monarch realm, but how long had it been, and he was in the inner palace? Just when he was puzzled, he seemed to have thought of something. His eyes flickered, and he whispered, So it's you. What do you mean it's you? Fatso heard Qin Feiyang's whisper and could not help but ask in confusion. On the night we just returned to the inner palace, didn't someone meet Lu Xingchen on the peak of the mountain? At that time, I felt that the voice was a little familiar, but I couldn't remember who it was. When I saw Xiang Xiaolong just now, I remembered. It was him. Qin Feiyang said. Him. Fatso was slightly stunned. He followed Qin Feiyang's gaze, and his eyes were full of surprise. Chapter 554. Xiang Xiaolong didn't notice that Qin Feiyang was paying attention to him. He raised his head and looked at the portal, as if he was struggling. At this moment, Lu Xingqian soared into the air and landed beside Qin Feiyang. He smiled and said, "Brother Qin, when are you going in?" Fatso revealed a puzzled expression and asked, "Does it have anything to do with you when we go in?" There was obvious dissatisfaction in his words. How could Lu Xingqian not hear it? But the smile on his face remained. "Back then, when we went to the ruins, I fought side by side with Brother Qin. Our tacit understanding is not bad, so this time, I want to continue working with Brother Qin. As for Dongfang Wuhan and the others, to be honest, I don't think highly of them." Lu Xingqian laughed. He deliberately lowered his voice so that only the three of them could hear him. Fatso was startled for a moment, then laughed, "You have good eyes, but we might not cooperate with you." Lu Xingqian smiled faintly, "This still depends on Brother Qin, right?" Fatso pursed his lips. When he was with Qin Feiyang, he couldn't make the decision, but he could give his opinion. The Lu Xingqian after his rebirth was too strange, he had to be on guard. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said, "We don't know what the situation is like in the 9 regions Great War. I think it's better for us to wait until we understand the details before we talk about cooperation. This way, he wouldn't offend anyone and would also leave himself a way out. What if there was a need to cooperate with Lu Xingqian in the future?" Therefore, he couldn't say too much. "All right." Lu Xingqian nodded. He also knew that this matter couldn't be rushed. Because it was obvious that Qin Feiyang hadn't let down his guard against him. Suddenly, the struggling Xiang Xiaolong soared into the air and flew towards the portal. Fatso was surprised. This guy really dared to go. Judging from his aura, Xiang Xiaolong was only a 1-star war emperor. Wasn't it equivalent to courting death? After Xiang Xiaolong, many more people entered the portal. However, there were also many people who changed their minds. The cultivation level of these people was basically below 6-star combat emperor. One of them was someone Qin Feiyang was familiar with, Morong Jing. She also chose to withdraw. In the eyes of others, her actions might seem cowardly, but in the eyes of Qin Feiyang, it was a very wise decision. After all, the Great War of the 9 states wasn't the only one. Rather than throwing away their lives now, they might as well wait until the next Great War and become stronger before participating in it. Wouldn't that be more secure? "Smelly brat, when we enter the battlefield, you must protect Shuang well. If anything happens to her, when you return, this old man will not let you off easily." At this moment, an old voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. It was the old man who was transmitting a message to him. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. Even if the old man didn't say anything, he would do his best to protect this cheap sister of his. Whoosh! In the meantime, Ren Wuxuang glanced at Qin Feiyang and flew side by side with Shen Mei towards the portal. "Shen Mei is going too?" Qin Feiyang frowned. This woman used to be a 5-star combat emperor, and now she had broken through to 6-star combat emperor, but her strength was still not enough. Looks like there's going to be more trouble. Women really don't let people be at ease. Fatso couldn't help but sigh in his heart. After the incident with Lu Xingqian, not only did it not change the relationship between Ren Wuxuang and Shen Mei, but it also made them closer. It could even be said that they were like sisters. If they wanted to protect Ren Wuxuang, they would definitely have to take care of Shen Mei. "Let's go." Qin Feiyang looked at Fatso's gloomy face and couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. He called out and followed Ren Wuxuang and stepped into the portal. Fatso also followed in. Lu Xingqian glanced at the inner hall and his eyes flashed. He rushed into the portal without looking back. Jiang Qianqing also followed in. He was also the last person to enter the portal. When the portal disappeared, the old man sighed and said, "I hope that this time, everyone can return safely." "That's unrealistic." The multicolor-clothed woman shook her head. For a moment, the hearts of the leaders present felt as if there was a rock pressing down on them. It was incomparably heavy. Outside the state capital, there was a huge canyon. The canyon was more than 10 miles long, surrounded by mountains and isolated from the world. Within the canyon, there were 4 different areas. In the south, there was a colorful sea of flowers. Among the flowers, there were all kinds of medicinal herbs swaying in the wind, emitting a strong medicinal fragrance. In the north, there was a clear lake like a mirror, reflecting the blue sky and white clouds. In the west, there was a plain without any trees. It was covered with green grass, looking like an oasis in the desert. In the east, there was a green forest. The trees were not particularly thick, but they were lush and full of vitality. This place was peaceful, tranquil, and quiet. This was like a fairyland. When one was in it, no matter how many troubles one had, one could forget them all. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a group of young people appeared in the sky above the canyon. All of them had extraordinary auras and were wearing the uniform of the sacred palace. That's right. They were the disciples of the inner hall. Coming to this unfamiliar place, everyone was extremely surprised. However, Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at the canyon below with extremely unpleasant expressions. Because this was the butterfly valley that they did not want to come to even in their dreams. "Boss, what's going on?" Fatso was extremely surprised. "I don't know." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Weren't they going to participate in the great battle of the 9 states? Why were they here? Was that ugly old witch in the butterfly valley now? The two of them could not help but look at the forest in the east. Because that was where the ugly old woman lived. Hey! Look, there are so many medicinal herbs there. Red fire glass tree, 9 suns flower, fire ginseng, blood ginseng, all of them are the most precious treasures. There's even a heart protection fruit. Just as Qin Feiyang and Fatso were feeling uneasy, a series of exclamations were heard. At this moment, everyone's eyes were locked on the sea of flowers in the south, their eyes full of greed. "They're all mine." Some people with poor self-control even rushed towards the sea of flowers at once, looking a little crazy. Seeing this, Wang Hong's face darkened and he shouted, "All of you, stop." However, with all kinds of precious medicinal herbs in front of them, they were like beautiful little girls taking off their clothes and waving at them. They really could not resist such a temptation. They turned a deaf ear to Wang Hong's shout. Damn it! Wang Hong could not help but curse, his eyes as gloomy as water. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying pressure appeared, coming from the forest in the east. Qin Feiyang and Fatso's eyes trembled. This pressure was too familiar. It was that ugly old woman. Whoosh! As expected, a stream of light streaked across the sky, almost in the blink of an eye. The ugly old woman appeared in the sky above the sea of flowers. Moreover, without the slightest mercy, she immediately killed. Battle Qi emerged, covering the sky and covering the earth, carrying a shocking killing intent. Before those who were blinded by desire could react, they were drowned by the battle Qi and blood splattered on the spot. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang and Fatso became more and more nervous. These were all inner palace disciples. Wang Hong and Jiang Qianqing were also present. But this old witch actually killed him without saying a word. Wasn't she too cruel? Most importantly, Wang Hong and Jiang Qianqing did not reprimand the ugly old woman. Not only did they not reprimand her, but there was also a trace of fear and respect in their eyes. This meant that the identity of this ugly old woman was not simple at all. Who else wants the medicinal herbs? After the ugly old woman finished killing, she stood with her hands behind her back and glanced at everyone coldly. She also noticed Qin Feiyang and Fatso. Her gaze was especially frightening. It could be said that no one present could compare to Qin Feiyang and Fatso's courage, but at this moment, they were all breaking out in cold sweat. Not to mention the others. Looking at the old woman's ugly face and her ferocious gaze, everyone's hearts were filled with extreme fear. Since you're in my territory, you have to abide by my rules. Whoever dares to have any ideas about the medicinal herbs here will have to die. The ugly old woman said. The murderous intent in her words was like sharp blades that penetrated deep into everyone's bones, causing their bodies and minds to tremble. Humph. The ugly old woman snorted coldly and suddenly turned her gaze, locking onto Qin Feiyang and Fatso. Oh no! The two of them immediately realized that something was wrong. The two of you, follow me. The ugly old woman said and flew towards the lake in the north. What should we do? Fatso's face was extremely pale. The old witch must have asked them to go alone to settle the score from last time. Qin Feiyang also felt very bitter. Why were they so unlucky to meet this vicious person again? The two of them could not help but look at Wang Hong and Jiang Qianqing for help. Go. As long as you don't act recklessly, she probably won't hurt you. The two of them laughed. Probably. Hearing this uncertain words, Qin Feiyang and Fatso's nerves immediately tensed up. Sigh. The two of them sighed deeply, gritted their teeth, and braced themselves to fly towards the lake. When the others saw this scene, their eyes were filled with shock and doubt. Why didn't she ask them but only Qin Feiyang and Fatso to go? But one thing was for sure, it was definitely not a good thing. Wu Yan and Su Yang, who had a grudge against Qin Feiyang, could not help but gloat. The lake in the north. The ugly old woman stood by the lake and scanned the calm surface of the lake, her eyes flickering. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang and Fatso landed behind the old woman. They looked at each other, cupped their hands, and smiled. Senior, it's been a few years. How have you been? Senior. The ugly old woman lifted the corner of her mouth and turned to look at Qin Feiyang and Fatso. She said playfully, if I don't remember, the two of you used to call me old witch? The two of them shuddered. That's all a misunderstanding. Actually, in our hearts, we respect you very much. You see, you're kind, virtuous, and highly respected. You even care for juniors like us. The two of us worship you from the bottom of our hearts. Old senior, you won't bicker with us two juniors, right? Fatso first put on a flattering smile and complimented the ugly old woman. Then, he asked carefully. You really know how to talk nonsense. Qin Feiyang secretly despised Fatso. This old witch did not seem to have anything to do with being kind, virtuous, or caring. Is that so? The ugly old woman looked at Fatso mockingly, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Do you think so too? Cough, cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly. Although he did not agree, he could only nod against his will. Do you think I don't know? Right now, the two of you must be cursing me in your hearts. So, stop pretending. The ugly old woman glanced at the two of them in disdain. Suddenly, she flicked her finger and two black streams of light entered Qin Feiyang and Fatso's mouths like lightning. What's that? The two of them were surprised. The ugly old woman said with a smile, the two of you should be familiar with it. Familiar? The two of them were stunned. But the next moment, their expressions changed and they hurriedly looked at their hearts. Immediately, they saw wisps of black air rushing towards their hearts. And they fused into their hearts very quickly. Black malevolent poison. The two of them looked up and glared at the ugly old woman. The ugly old woman said indifferently, Don't look at me like that. The two of you were so arrogant last time. According to my character, I would have killed the two of you long ago. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, "So, we have to thank you." The ugly old woman smiled. "If you must thank me, I'll accept it." Shameless. Qin Feiyang and Fatso cursed in their hearts on the spot. "Don't even think about detoxifying it. Ever since the two of you escaped last time, I studied it for a long time and finally concocted a black malevolent poison that no one can detoxify. In other words, the black malevolent poison that the two of you are consuming now is a modified version. Its toxicity is even more terrifying." The ugly old woman looked at them proudly. Qin Feiyang frowned and asked, "What do you want us to do this time? You are indeed a smart person. But this time, it's not to help me, it's to help yourselves. I don't think highly of the others, but I think highly of the two of you. You must win the battle of the 9 states." The ugly old woman said. Fatso sneered. "You don't have to say that. We will work hard too. Not work hard, but definitely. Otherwise, even if the mansion master comes to plead for you, I won't give you the antidote." As the ugly old woman said, she took out 2 palm-sized jade bottles, which were half filled with a transparent liquid. "This is the antidote to suppress the black malevolent poison. Take it every other month like last time. Remember, you must protect these 2 bottles of antidote well. Otherwise, you will die of the poison before the battle of the 9 states is over." After that, the ugly old woman threw the 2 jade bottles to Qin Feiyang and Jiang Qianqian. The 2 of them hurriedly caught it, afraid that it would fall to the ground and break. Then, without any hesitation, they poured out a drop of liquid and drank it. The ugly old woman glanced at the 2 of them playfully, then turned to Wang Hong and Jiang Qianqing and said, "Bring them and follow me." After that, she flew towards the woods in the east. "Behave yourselves. Let's go." Wang Hong exhorted the disciples around him, then led everyone away in a grandiose manner. Qin Feiyang and Jiang Qianqian also grabbed the jade bottles and flew towards the woods in the east. "Damn it, when Fat Lord becomes stronger, I must find her and settle this account." Fatso was indignant. Last time, she only poisoned Qin Feiyang, but this time she didn't even let him go. It was too much. Qin Feiyang's eyes also flashed with cold light. After flying for a while, Fatso frowned and said, "Boss, do you think she lied to us?" He felt that the improved black malevolent poison was simply ignoring their words. Qin Feiyang said, "When we find the 6th grade elixir fire and refine an elixir fire with 5 elixir patterns, we will know. Then this antidote must be kept well." Fatso held the jade bottle with an extremely serious face. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, "Put these 2 jade bottles in the castle." Because the castle was the safest place. After giving the jade bottles to Fatso, he sent Fatso in. After a while, he came to the familiar wooden building. The ugly old woman entered the wooden building first. The others were waiting outside, at the same time looking around curiously. Wang Hong and Jiang Qianqing walked in front of Qin Feiyang and said, "Did she do anything to you?" Qin Feiyang sorted out his mood and said with a smile, "No, maybe she found Fatso and I a little pleasing to the eye, so she called us over and gave us a few instructions." Pleasing to the eye. Not far away, Wu Yan and the others heard this and immediately showed disdain. It would be strange if such an arrogant person was pleasing to the eye. There must be something else. Wang Hong and Jiang Qianqing were also a little stunned. But when they heard that nothing was wrong, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. "Come in." After a while, the hoarse voice of the ugly old woman came from the wooden building. Everyone filed in and entered the hall. Immediately, they saw a dark passage on the floor of the hall, and the ugly old woman stood beside the passage. Everyone looked at the passage in surprise. But Qin Feiyang frowned. Chapter 555. If it was really the Forgotten Land, they would be in big trouble. Because he had made too many enemies back then. The most terrifying ones were the Pill Tower's Tower Master and his wife. If they were caught by the two of them, they would definitely die. The ugly old woman didn't say anything and directly led everyone into the passage. An hour later, everyone's eyes lit up as they arrived in front of an altar. During this time, Fatso also came out of the ancient castle. The altar was blood-red as if it was dyed in blood. It emitted an ancient and mysterious aura. Everyone looked at the altar curiously, trying to guess what it was. However, Qin Feiyang and Fatso's hearts were in their throats. It seemed that they were really going to the Forgotten Land. The ugly old woman still didn't say a word. With a wave of her hand, battle qi surged toward the altar. As the battle qi surged in, the altar was like a sleeping beast that was gradually awakening. Buzz. After a moment, accompanied by a low buzzing sound, the altar erupted with a resplendent blood-red light, dyeing everyone's faces blood-red. Go. The ugly old woman finally retracted her battle qi and said coldly before retreating to the side. This teleportation altar can only teleport 10 people at a time. Everyone, don't be anxious. Take it slow. Wang Hong took the lead and stepped into the teleportation gate. Qin Feiyang was surprised. He originally thought that Wang Hong and Jiang Qianqing's mission was to send them here. He didn't expect that they would have to follow them. Boss, what are you thinking about? Hurry up. Fatso dragged Qin Feiyang and was the first to jump onto the altar. Why are you in a hurry? Qin Feiyang frowned. Fatso chuckled. If there are any treasures, we can be the first to get them. It's not like you don't know the entrance to the Forgotten Land. What treasures can there be? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. That's hard to say. Fatso laughed mischievously. After all, it had been a long time. What if some treasures appeared? Why aren't you worried at all now? Qin Feiyang found it strange. Just a moment ago, he still had that scared look on his face. Why did he suddenly become so arrogant and want to be the first to enter? I'm worried. Fatso nodded. But what was the use of worrying? Unless they withdrew from the Great War of the 9 Prefectures, they would have to enter sooner or later. While the two were whispering, Ren Wushuang and Shen Mei, Lu Xingchen and Xiang Xiaolong, Morong Xiong, Dong Zhengyang, and Dongfang Wuhan also jumped onto the altar one after another. Including Wang Hong, there were 10 of them. Immediately, their vision turned black, as if they had entered a deep dark tunnel. They could feel their bodies moving quickly. However, his speed was extremely fast, as if he was traveling through time. Faced with such a situation in an unknown battlefield, Ren Wushuang and the others couldn't help but feel nervous. However, Qin Feiyang and Fatso had experience in teleporting and knew what kind of place the Forgotten Land was, so they were not worried. In fact, they were already mentally prepared to fall into that icy lake once again. However, when the light appeared in front of their eyes and their feet landed on the ground, the two were stunned. What they were stepping on was actually solid soil. What was going on? The icy lake had disappeared. Was it caused by the fierce beasts fighting on the glacier? Or was it destroyed when the lady chased after them and fought with the snow python guarding the entrance? However, when they came back to their senses and looked at the environment in front of them, they found that the above guesses were all wrong. Because this was not the Forgotten Land at all. But then, they were deeply shocked by the scene in front of them. Where they were now was an incomparably large plain, and it was difficult to see the end at a glance. On the plain, not even a blade of grass grew. As if it had been dried up for a long time, it was covered with countless cracks, as if a layer of spider web had been spread on the ground. But if that was the case, Qin Feiyang and the others would certainly not be so surprised. What really surprised them was that the soil was dark red, as if the soil was soaked in blood and then dried. In the void, there was also a faint blood mist, and at the same time, there was a tragic aura that couldn't be dispersed. And there was also a trace of creepy coldness. Look! Suddenly, Fatso pointed to the sky, his eyes wide open and full of horror. Everyone looked up at the same time, and there was a look of horror on their faces. High up in the sky, there was a sun, but it was not fiery red, but blood red, as if it was formed by blood. Everything here gave people the feeling that they had come to hell. Qin Feiyang and the others couldn't help but feel scared. Dongfang Wuhan asked, Commander Wang Hong, when you and the Mansion Master came to participate in the Nine Regions War, was it also here? Yes. After so many years, this place hasn't changed at all. Wang Hong nodded, and there was a look of reminiscence in his eyes. Fatso came to Qin Feiyang's side and asked in a low voice, Boss, do you know where this place is? As the prince of the great Qin Empire, Qin Feiyang must know something. I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head. When he was young, although he liked to read all kinds of ancient books, he had only stayed in the imperial capital for 10 years. If he counted the few years when he was just born and didn't know anything, the time was even shorter. Moreover, at that time, he didn't study these ancient books wholeheartedly. He just took the time to read them when he was not cultivating. Therefore, he didn't know every place in the great Qin Empire. Even you don't know, it seems that this place is very mysterious. Fatso whispered, and his gaze turned solemn. Whoosh! At the same time, the other disciples also entered the battlefield one after another. Like Qin Feiyang and the others, when they saw this strange land, they immediately started to talk about it, and they couldn't help but feel anxious. Half an hour later, everyone had come in. Excluding Wang Hong and Jiang Qianqing, there were a total of 550 people. Their cultivation level was basically 4-star combat emperor and above. As for those who were below 4-star combat emperor, there were exceptions. Quiet. Wang Hong took a few steps forward and stood in front of everyone. Jiang Qianqing stood at the side with a faint smile on his face. Everyone immediately stopped talking and looked at Wang Hong. Wang Hong glanced at everyone and said, This place is very unfamiliar to all of you, but it is very familiar to me because this is where I rose to power. And this place also has a name that makes people tremble in fear, Nine Nether Yellow Spring. Nine Nether Yellow Spring. When everyone heard this name, their hearts trembled. At the same time, they agreed with this name. The blood sun in the sky. The blood mist in the void. The blood red land. It was no different from the yellow spring. Humph. Suddenly, Wang Hong snorted and said, If you think that this is all there is, then you are gravely mistaken. Do you see the end of the plain? He pointed at the end of the plain. Everyone looked over. The plain was too big, and they couldn't see the end. At the end of the plain is a death swamp, and there are all kinds of fatal dangers in it. When the Palace Lord and I participated in the Nine States War, there were more than 700 people, but only 300 people successfully walked out of the death swamp. And those who died in there, they were the same as all of you, monsters that were once the center of attention in the inner palace. Wang Hong shouted. The death rate is so high. Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at each other. The others were also dumbfounded. Are you afraid? Let me tell you, the death swamp is just the beginning. The next few places will be even more dangerous. So let me give you a piece of advice. It's best to put down your grudges first. Only by uniting will the chances of survival be higher. Wang Hong said. Everyone nodded. Wang Hong said, If you have any questions, ask them quickly before we set off. Isn't it the 9 States War? Why don't I see the people from the other 8 states? Someone asked. This was also the question in everyone's mind. Wang Hong said, If I'm not mistaken, they have all entered this place, but they are all teleported to different places, so we won't meet them for the time being. Lu Xingchen said, Then when will we meet them? It might be fast, or it might be slow. But as long as you enter the death swamp, you will meet them sooner or later, because you are all going to the same place. Wang Hong said. Where? Someone asked. The Paramitha. Wang Hong spat out these two words word by word with a particularly serious expression. The Paramitha? Everyone couldn't help but be stunned. The Paramitha was no stranger to them. It was the end of the Yellow Spring. Was this really the Yellow Spring? I can't say much about the situation here. Because this is the order of the current emperor. You need to explore it yourselves. Otherwise, the 9 States War will lose its meaning. I can only tell you 2 things. First, there are a lot of treasures here. Precious medicinal herbs, perfect battle arts, pill recipes, pill fires, pill furnaces, divine weapons, you can think of everything. It just depends on whether you have the life to find it and the strength to snatch it. Second, the final result. The first 50 people to reach the Paramitha will be able to enter the imperial capital. Wang Hong said. Although he didn't go into detail, his words were very exciting. They couldn't help but clench their fists. If there are no other questions, each of you will receive a Qianquan bag. Men on the right, women on the left. Wang Hong waved his hand, and 2 piles of Qianquan bags appeared on the ground in front of him. What the hell? Fatso hurriedly rushed forward, grabbed the 2 Qianquan bags, and hurried back to Qin Feiyang's side. He threw one to Qin Feiyang and hurriedly checked it. Everyone looked at him curiously. Damn! Fat Lord, I thought it was some kind of treasure. So it's just a pile of junk. However, Fatso immediately showed a look of disdain when he saw it. What's in there? Someone asked. Fatso glared at that person and said angrily, Damn, didn't I say that everyone will get one? Don't you know how to check it yourself? That person looked away resentfully and ran to grab a Qianquan bag. After checking it, he also showed a look of disappointment. Looking at Fatso and that person's reaction, Qin Feiyang also looked curiously. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. It was actually filled with clothes. However, what was the purpose of giving them these clothes? Chapter 556. Seeing the word spirit, Qin Feiyang had an answer in his heart. Spirit represented the spirit state. The reason he gave everyone such clothes was to indicate their identity. If nothing unexpected happened, the people of the other 8 states would also wear such symbolic clothes. And he prepared so many clothes for everyone because he was worried that when everyone fought, the clothes would be torn and they would not be able to change. It could be said that Wang Hong had thought about it very carefully in advance. Before entering the death swamp, you have to find a place to change into these clothes. At the same time, you have to listen to the arrangements of the captain, Dongfang Wuhan. If there is a disagreement, everyone can discuss it calmly, but you must not do anything to hurt your fellow disciples. After everyone had collected their clothes, Wang Hong began to remind them. Yes. Everyone nodded. Wang Hong asked, Are there any other questions now? Everyone shook their heads. In that case, Wang Hong glanced at everyone, his gaze extremely sharp, waved his hand and shouted, Then let's go. Immediately. With Dongfang Wuhan in the lead, everyone rushed towards the end of the plain. But Qin Feiyang did not move. Qin Feiyang did not move, and neither did Fatso. Wang Hong looked at the 2 and asked doubtfully, Is there anything else you 2 need? Fatso waved his hand and chuckled, Fat Lord is fine, but the boss might be. Qin Feiyang said, Senior, I wonder if the old man has mentioned the matter of the ruins to the current emperor. You are quite concerned about this matter. Wang Hong looked at Qin Feiyang strangely and nodded. When the Lord went to the imperial capital, he mentioned this matter. What did he say? Qin Feiyang asked. According to the Lord, the emperor did not directly state his position at the time, but it can be seen that he does not agree with destroying the ruins. Wang Hong said. Qin Feiyang immediately frowned. This matter. Fatso asked curiously, when did the old man go to the imperial capital? Wang Hong smiled and said, not long after you were imprisoned. Fatso nodded in realization and said with a sly smile, it seems that the old master is afraid that no one will be able to control us after he leaves the spiritual state. That's why he put us in jail. Ugh. Wang Hong and Jiang Qianqing looked at each other. To be able to think of this damned Fatso's brain was really not simple. That was right. This was indeed the reason why the old man had locked them up in prison. Because going to the capital was not something that could be done in a short period of time. What if Qin Feiyang caused some trouble while he was away? Therefore, he might as well lock them up and save himself the trouble. Of course. It was impossible for Wang Hong and Wang Yu to admit this to their faces. Because once he admitted it, Fatso would become even more arrogant. Cough. Wang Hong coughed dryly, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, don't think so much now. Focus on dealing with the people from the other 8 continents. That's right. The people from the other 8 continents are not simple people. Dongfang Wuhan's leadership is not that good either. You must help him from the side. Jiang Qianqing smiled. I will do my best. Qin Feiyang nodded and cupped his hands. I will take my leave. Wang Hong said, take good care of Wushuang on the way. Be careful. Okay. Qin Feiyang responded and chased after the group with Fatso. After walking for a while, Fatso frowned and said, Boss, Fat Lord has been thinking about a problem, but I just can't figure it out. What problem? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Fatso said, logically speaking, shouldn't it be the 3 leaders of the sacred hall escorting us here? Why is it Wang Hong and Jiang Qianqing? I have also thought about this problem. I guess it's because the old man is afraid that the 3 hall masters have selfish motives. Especially the martial arts hall master. If he escorts us, it is very likely that it will be disadvantageous to us. Qin Feiyang analyzed. Damn, you can even think of this? Fatso couldn't help but be stunned. He shook his head and sighed. The older the ginger, the spicier it is. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Can a brainless person sit on the seat of the mansion lord? That's true. Fatso smiled and said, but this Jiang Qianqing is highly valued by the old man. I just don't know where he came from. Qin Feiyang was stunned and frowned. Didn't the old man say that he is a loose cultivator? Loose cultivator? Fatso shook his head and sneered. Every time he saw Jiang Qianqing, he had a very real feeling that this person was definitely not as simple as the old man said. After hearing Fatso's words, Qin Feiyang thought about it carefully and also felt a little strange. Logically speaking, a loose cultivator who could cultivate to the battle master realm would definitely have an extraordinary state of mind. Such a person didn't care much about power and status. But why did he suddenly come to be the East City Lord now? It was impossible for the old man to invite him to be the city lord. Because the old man had countless capable people under his command, and there was no lack of experts in the city. Any one of them would be able to do the job. So, it should be Jiang Qianqing who took the initiative to look for the old man. What are you two dawdling for? Hurry up and catch up. Don't drag us down. Just as Qin Feiyang was deep in thought, a dissatisfied shout sounded. The shout came from Wu Yan. Qin Feiyang looked up and saw Wu Yan turning her head and looking at him and Fatso in disgust. Immediately, he frowned without leaving a trace. It seemed that the journey wouldn't be too peaceful. Fatso didn't hide the cold light in his eyes. He whispered, "Boss, let's find a chance to get rid of these flies. Don't take the initiative to cause trouble, or else you'll become the subject of ridicule. However, even if we don't cause trouble, some people won't be able to endure it for long. We just need to wait." Qin Feiyang said. Understood. Fatso chuckled. Whiz. The two of them took large strides and quickly caught up to the main group, walking side by side with Ren Wuxuang and Shen Mei. As for the others, they basically didn't like them, so they naturally wouldn't use their hot faces to stick to their cold buttocks. Ren Wuxuang swept his gaze across the people around him and asked in a low voice, "Where's the wolf cub? Why don't I see it?" Qin Feiyang said, "It's in closed-door cultivation to break through to the War Master realm." "So fast?" Ren Wuxuang was stunned. Shen Mei, who was at the side, was so shocked that she couldn't close her mouth. "Heh heh. Fat Lord is also an 8-star war emperor now." Fatso chuckled, his expression filled with pride. Without a doubt. The fragile hearts of the two girls were once again traumatized. Even this wretched Fatso had already broken through to the 8-star war emperor. Why were these guys all so abnormal? There was simply no way to compare. It's too slow to walk like this. Let's just fly over. Suddenly, someone suggested, his tone somewhat impatient. I agree too. Anyway, we've walked such a long distance and haven't encountered any danger. There's no need to be so careful. Another person echoed. No way. Whether it's Commander Wang Hong or the Mansion Lord, they both said very clearly that this place is extremely dangerous. We have to take every step carefully. Dongfang Wuhan shook his head. Murong Xiong said in dissatisfaction, they only said that the Death Swamp is dangerous, but they didn't say that this place is also dangerous. Is there a need to do this? Dongfang Wuhan laughed, I'm thinking for everyone's safety. What a joke. Look for yourself. As far as the eye can see, there's not even a cover. Even if there are any monsters, there's nowhere for them to hide. This is the first time I've seen you so timid. If you want to walk, then walk slowly. In any case, I won't accompany you. Murong Xiong glanced at Dongfang Wuhan with disdain and suddenly jumped up. Seeing this, Dongfang Wuhan frowned and was about to continue persuading him, but at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Murong Xiong, who had jumped up into the air, actually fell down again. Moreover, he fiercely smashed into the ground, looking rather miserable. What's going on? Everyone immediately stopped and looked around vigilantly. Dongfang Wuhan scanned the surroundings. Seeing that there was no one else, he walked in front of Murong Xiong and asked, Are you all right? Murong Xiong ignored him and stood up to look at the sky. His pair of bell-like tiger eyes were filled with shock. Everyone followed his gaze and looked in that direction. There was still nothing. For a moment, everyone's hearts were in turmoil, unable to calm down. Qin Feiyang also looked at the sky suspiciously. How could such a situation occur? Fatso asked in surprise, Boss, could he have suddenly gone crazy? A dignified war sect would have epilepsy. Is your brain broken? Ren Wuxuang couldn't help but roll his eyes at him. Fortunately, Murong Xiong was dozens of meters away from them. In addition, Fatso's voice was very low, so Murong Xiong didn't hear it. Otherwise, with Murong Xiong's temper, he would definitely turn hostile on the spot. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang also jumped up. Everyone's gaze immediately converged on him. The situation with Murong Xiong happened again. Qin Feiyang also fell down, but he was prepared in advance. After shaking a few times, he stabilized his body. He wasn't as miserable as Murong Xiong. But his expression was almost the same as Murong Xiong's, full of shock and horror. Everyone was more and more bewildered. Wasn't this too strange? They all wanted to jump up and feel it for themselves, but in the face of this strange atmosphere, they felt a little guilty and didn't dare to take action. Ren Wuxuang looked at Qin Feiyang, frowned and asked, What's going on? Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, There's a gravitational force in the air. Once you fly up, the gravitational force will oppress you. Gravitational force. Ren Wuxuang's eyes trembled. He tried to adjust it, and sure enough, there was a gravitational force immediately. With Qin Feiyang and the other two taking the lead, the others finally felt relieved and boldly felt it for themselves. It's nothing. At most, you can't fly. Nothing else is affected. There's no need to make such a fuss. Su Yang said lightly, glancing at Qin Feiyang with a trace of sarcasm. But the first one to look at Su Yang was not Qin Feiyang and the others, but Dongfang Wuhan and the other two kings. Their eyes were extremely unfriendly. Seeing this, Su Yang's face changed, and he asked carefully, "Three senior brothers, did I say something wrong?" However, Dong Jingyang and the other two didn't look at him. They looked up at the sky, and their hearts were particularly heavy. Qin Feiyang was the same. The situation here was almost the same as above the canyon in the land of ruins. Although the gravitational force here was not as terrible as above the canyon, it should be known that with the gravitational force, no one could fly. But now, no one knew where the other side was. If the journey was very long, they didn't know how long it would take to walk there. Not to mention, Wang Hong had said again and again that the future was full of dangers. When they encountered these dangers, they would definitely be restrained. And the most important point was that at the end of the plain was a swamp. This was undoubtedly even more difficult to walk. Because no matter what it was, once it fell into the swamp, it would be ruthlessly swallowed by the swamp until it suffocated to death. If there was no solid ground to step on, even entering the death swamp would be a problem. Even if they entered, they would be in a situation where they were treading on thin ice. On the other hand, if they could fly, they wouldn't have to touch the ground, which would be much easier. So. Chapter 557. Dongfang Wuhan retracted his gaze, looked at the plains in front of him, and said in a deep voice, "Everyone be careful, let's go." The group set off once again. After suffering a huge loss, Murong Xiong did not go against Dongfang Wuhan. As for Su Yang, because of his previous ignorant performance, in everyone's eyes, he was more or less a clown. The plains were unimaginably large. Even after walking until dark, no one could see the shadow of the end. Dongfang Wuhan scanned the front, pointed to a small hill a few hundred meters away, and said, "Let's rest there for the night, and set off tomorrow morning." No one had any objections. When they arrived at the foot of the hill, everyone sat cross-legged on the ground and closed their eyes to recuperate. Dongfang Wuhan walked to the top of the hill and carefully observed his surroundings. Fatso lay on the hill, holding his head with both hands, looking at the blood-red sky, and said, "Don't say, walking for an entire day is really tiring." After saying that, he yawned, closed his eyes, and fell asleep. Qin Feiyang looked at him, and couldn't help but feel helpless. Probably only this guy could sleep right now. However, Qin Feiyang scanned his surroundings. Not only was it impossible to fly here, the essence chi was also very thin. Without enough battle chi pills, it would be difficult to reach the end. Next. He also sat cross-legged beside Fatso, closing his eyes to recuperate. Gradually, the blood sun in the sky set in the west, and a blood moon climbed up. The earth fell into darkness. "Junior brother Qin, can you come up?" Suddenly, Dongfang Wuhan's voice entered Qin Feiyang's mind. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes, raised his head and looked at Dongfang Wuhan suspiciously, then got up and walked to the top of the hill, smiling faintly. "What's the matter?" Dongfang Wuhan said, "Actually, I know that the real candidate for the captain in the palace lord's heart is you." Qin Feiyang was stunned. What did this person want to say? "Although I rarely show myself and have never come into contact with you, I know everything about you like the back of my hand. I sincerely hope that we can cooperate sincerely and bring everyone to the other side first." Dongfang Wuhan said with a trace of pleading in his eyes. "I'm afraid I don't have that ability. Senior brother Wuhan, instead of trying to convince me, why don't you convince Dong Jingyang and Murong Xiong?" After all, they are all stronger than me. However, if you really encounter trouble, I will definitely not sit idly by. Qin Feiyang smiled. Hearing Qin Feiyang's first two sentences, Dongfang Wuhan was somewhat dissatisfied in his heart. He thought that Qin Feiyang was putting on airs and was unwilling to cooperate. But when he heard the last sentence, he felt much more comfortable. He cupped his hands and smiled, then I'll thank junior brother Qin first. Qin Feiyang smiled and was about to turn around and leave. Junior brother Qin, wait a moment. Dongfang Wuhan's voice sounded again. Anything else? Qin Feiyang turned to look at him in confusion. Dongfang Wuhan looked around and said in a low voice, I feel that this plane is very strange. Strange? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Dongfang Wuhan said, we haven't encountered any abnormalities along the way. Don't you think this is very strange? Qin Feiyang had also thought about this question. Logically speaking, it was impossible for the plane to be so calm. After all, this was a place that even Wang Hong and the old man were very afraid of. However, it was true that nothing had happened. So he guessed that the plane might just be a transitional place. Crack. But suddenly, a faint sound came from the distance, as if something had broken out of the ground. Qin Feiyang and Dongfang Wuhan both caught the sound at the first moment, and a trace of surprise appeared on their faces. But the blood mist in front of them was very weak, so they couldn't see it clearly. Qin Feiyang whispered, should we inform everyone? We're still not sure what it is. Don't alarm everyone. Dongfang Wuhan shook his head. After pondering for a while, he said, Junior brother Qin, I'll have to trouble you to help take a look. If there is really something, immediately send a signal. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded and walked down the hill to wake Fatso up. Then, he whispered a few words in Fatso's ear. Fatso, who had just been woken up, was still in a daze. But when he heard movement, he immediately quivered and his sleepiness disappeared. Then, the two of them walked up the hill. Dongfang Wuhan cupped his hands and said, I'll have to trouble the two of you. Remember to be careful. The two of them nodded and jumped down, silently lurking in the direction of the sound. After walking for a while, Fatso whispered, Boss, this Dongfang Wuhan's character is not bad. Qin Feiyang nodded. Although he didn't know Dongfang Wuhan well, at least when he asked for help, his attitude was very polite. Crack. Suddenly, that faint sound rang out again. At first glance, it sounded like someone was gnawing on a bone. Fatso couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. The two of them were especially careful, restraining their auras to the extreme. Not long after, in front of a hill, they entered their line of sight. The sound seemed to come from behind the hill. The two of them climbed up the hill quietly and peeked out to see what was ahead. Suddenly, a look of bewilderment crept up in their eyes. Dozens of meters away from the hill, there was actually a white figure. Although the blood mist that filled the air made the figure somewhat blurry, they could definitely conclude that it was a person. But that's not right. Right now, everyone was on the hill. Before they came, no one had left on their own, and no one had fallen behind during the day. But why was there a person here? Could it be? The two of them looked at each other, and the same thought crept up in their minds at the same time. It must be someone from the other 8 regions. Fatso whispered, should we kill him? Qin Feiyang nodded, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Whoosh! Almost at the same time, the two of them, like a sharp arrow, rushed out from the hill and headed straight for the white figure. Swish! The white figure also sensed Qin Feiyang and Fatso, and suddenly turned around to look at them. But just as the person turned around, Qin Feiyang and Fatso suddenly braked and stopped, as if they were seriously frightened, and their faces were ghastly pale. At this moment, they were only about 20 meters away from the person, and could clearly see the person's true appearance. That person's face was completely devoid of flesh and blood, and was completely a skeleton. And in the eye sockets, there were no eyeballs, but two blood-red lights, like flames, constantly jumping. Looking at the skeleton face, Fatso's body trembled, and an indescribable fear emerged in his heart. Ghost! Suddenly, he roared in horror, turned around and began to flee. Useless! Qin Feiyang glared at him, then turned to look at the skeleton face, his eyes flashing, and rushed up without hesitation. Boss, do you want to die? Seeing this, Fatso immediately stopped and said in shock and anger. Qin Feiyang said without turning his head, "It's not like I've never seen a skeleton, what are you afraid of?" While speaking, he had already rushed to the front of the skeleton. Human. Kiki. Roar. The skeleton's mouth opened and closed, making intermittent sounds, as if it was laughing sinisterly, and also as if a fierce beast was growling. The flame in the eye sockets, at the same time, was also glowing with a bloody light, which looked extremely terrifying. The upper and lower jawbones also collided with an ear-piercing sound. Qin Feiyang suddenly realized that this was the source of the sound. "I'd like to see if you're a human or a ghost." His eyes were cold, his 5 fingers clenched into a fist, and he punched the skeleton face. But at the same time, the skeleton also raised its arm, and the hand hidden in the sleeve cage was revealed. It was also a skeletal hand. There was no flesh and blood, only white bones, but on the white bones, there was a layer of blood-red light. This blood-red light gave Qin Feiyang a feeling like the existence of battle qi. He raised his eyebrows, and his fist collided with the skeletal hand without flinching. Boom! Crack! Accompanied by a loud sound, the skeletal hand broke on the spot. The strong wind also tore the clothes on the man's body into pieces in an instant. There was no flesh and blood on its body, and it was just a skeleton. But between the skeleton's lower abdomen, there was also a ball of blood-red flame, which was the size of a palm, flickering with a dazzling light. Damn, what's going on? Bones can still talk and attack people. Fatso, who was standing at the back, was full of disbelief. Kiki. Kiki. The skeleton let out an ear-piercing sinister laugh again. The hand bone that was broken by Qin Feiyang's punch, at this moment, floated up and connected to the broken place. With a flash of blood-red light, it was restored to its original state in an instant. This time, even Qin Feiyang was shocked. Boom! He punched again, and this time, he increased his strength by a little. That skeleton didn't retreat in the slightest and collided with Qin Feiyang once again. Crack! The skeleton's arm broke again. And it was blasted into pieces. However, the previous situation happened again. No matter how small the pieces were, they automatically floated up and were quickly repaired. It can't be killed. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This seemed to be unreasonable. Crack. At this moment, the surrounding ground began to crack. Qin Feiyang and Fatso glanced at the ground in surprise. Suddenly, one by one, arms stretched out from the soil. Those were also white bones. There are more. Fatso looked at this scene, and his face was pale. Let's go. Qin Feiyang did not stay any longer and turned to rush toward the small hill. Fatso did not dare to hesitate and hurriedly followed. Boom! The two turned around, accompanied by a series of loud sounds, and the ground continued to explode. One by one, skeletons rushed out from the ground. Hee hee. They were all wearing white clothes, some were tattered, and there were also 2 balls of flames flickering in their eye sockets. As soon as they came out, they let out a creepy grin and chased after Qin Feiyang and Fatso. Is this really the netherworld? Fatso was very surprised. Is this really the case? Qin Feiyang murmured, his face was quite gloomy. Although the strength of these skeletons was not very strong, it was enough to threaten everyone. Because there was no way to completely crush them. As the two ran, the ground in front of them also exploded, and the soil shot in all directions. Following closely. One by one, skeletons rushed out and blocked in front of them. At the same time. On the left and right side of the ground, there were also groups of skeletons. In a blink of an eye, there were hundreds of skeletons around. Isn't this too much? Fatty was dumbfounded by what he saw. Hee. Chapter 558. At the same time. Dongfang Wuhan, who was standing on the hillside, heard the commotion and shouted, "There's a situation. Everyone, get up." "What's the situation?" Everyone was shocked and stood up to look at Dongfang Wuhan. "Just now, I heard a commotion coming from afar, so I asked Qin Feiyang and Fatso to go and take a look. But now, there are sounds of battle coming from that side. They must have encountered some trouble. Everyone, quickly follow me to support them." Dongfang Wuhan said in a deep voice. Everyone listened carefully. There were indeed sounds of battle. "Let's go." Dongfang Wuhan waved his hand and jumped down from the hillside. "Wait." But at this moment, Murong Xiong spoke. "What's wrong?" Dongfang Wuhan stopped and looked at him in confusion. Murong Xiong said, "We don't know what's going on over there. If we go rashly, not only will we not be able to save them, we will also be implicated." "What do you mean? Are you going to sit back and do nothing?" Dongfang Wuhan raised his eyebrows. "I didn't say that I don't care. I'm just thinking about everyone's safety. Qin Feiyang and Fatso are both 8-star combat emperors. If we can't even handle them, I'm afraid that most of the people here will die. After all, there are many people here whose cultivation is not as good as them." Murong Xiong said. Ren Wuxuang, who was in the crowd, heard Murong Xiong's words and his face was instantly filled with anger. They are going to investigate the situation for everyone. Now that they are in danger, you want to stand back and do nothing. What qualifications do you have to be the king of the inner palace? Ren Wuxuang, what I said is the truth. Don't mix it up. If you don't care about everyone's safety and insist on bringing people to save them, I won't stop you. But I believe that not many people will go. Murong Xiong sneered. Senior brother Murong Xiong is right. We can't sacrifice so many of us just to save them. That's right. We'll wait for them here. If they come back alive, it won't be too late for us to ask about the situation. Everyone chimed in. Ren Wuxuang asked in a deep voice, "What if they don't come back?" Murong Xiong said expressionlessly, "If they don't come back, it means this place is very dangerous. We have to take a detour and leave this place overnight." The others also nodded in agreement. They didn't even consider the life and death of Qin Feiyang. In their hearts, they probably couldn't wait for the two of them to die. Ren Wuxuang looked at everyone's cold expressions and felt very disappointed. She then looked at Dongfang Wuhan and Dong Jingyang. Dongfang Wuhan glanced at everyone with a trace of anger and helplessness on his face. Seeing Ren Wuxuang looking at him, he shook his head and said, "As the captain, I can't abandon everyone here for the two of them. Please understand." Dong Jingyang lowered his head and remained silent. No one knew what he was thinking. "All right. If you guys aren't going, I'll go." Ren Wuxuang clenched her jade-like hands and coldly swept her gaze over the crowd. Then, she rushed towards Qin Feiyang. "I'm going too." "And me." Lu Xingqian and Shen Mei quickly followed. But at this moment. Gotcha! Boom! All of a sudden, the ground around them exploded, and white figures rushed out from the ground. They were also skeletons. Moreover, their number was even larger than that of Qin Feiyang's side. Seeing those skeletons, the expressions of everyone present suddenly changed. Some of the timid people were so scared that their legs went soft. In the blink of an eye, Qin Feiyang, who was fighting with the skeletons, heard the movement coming from the hillside. His face was immediately filled with bewilderment. What was going on? Could it be that skeletons also appeared over there? Fatso anxiously said, "Don't worry about them. Quickly think about how to deal with these damn things." During this period, the two of them used many methods. But in the end, even if they were blasted into ashes, those skeletons could quickly repair themselves and regain their peak strength. They couldn't be killed at all. It's impossible for them to be so tenacious. There must be some weakness. Qin Feiyang calmed his mind and carefully observed while fighting with the skeletons. Suddenly, his gaze was locked on the flames between the sea of qi of the skeletons. These flames were equivalent to the source of power. Could it be that he had to crush these flames? Thinking of this, he used phantom steps and quickly approached a skeleton and punched at the flames. Boom! The flames dissipated on the spot. The skeleton also immediately stopped, like a stone sculpture, lifeless. It really works. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up and he charged towards another skeleton. Seeing this scene, Fatso's spirit was also greatly boosted. But at this moment, the flames that had been scattered actually condensed together again. The lifeless skeleton also immediately returned to normal and charged towards Qin Feiyang. Not working. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Just as he was stunned, the skeleton's bone fingers, like 5 sharp thorns, went straight towards Qin Feiyang's heart. "Boss, be careful!" Fatso shouted. Qin Feiyang suddenly quivered, but it was obviously too late to dodge now. In the blink of an eye, Qin Feiyang's body slightly tilted, and the bone fingers sank into his right shoulder. Suddenly, blood spurted. Although injured, at least his heart was saved. Saving his heart was equivalent to saving his life. Blood, I want blood, but when those skeletons saw the blood flowing out of Qin Feiyang, it was as if they had been injected with chicken blood, crazily pouncing towards Qin Feiyang. Even the skeletons around Fatso also pounced towards Qin Feiyang. The flames in their eye sockets jumped rapidly. Although they couldn't see their expressions, Qin Feiyang and Fatso could clearly feel that they were now full of greed and desire. Of the 36 stratagems, escape is the best strategy. "Boss, you hold on, Fatso will go find help." Fatso roared and was ready to slip away. "Bastard, do you still have loyalty? What's more, I'm afraid Dongfang Wuhan and the others can't even protect themselves now, where can they find help?" Qin Feiyang said angrily. "Can loyalty be used as food?" Fatso pursed his lips. But after saying that, he still rushed towards Qin Feiyang without hesitation. Of course, it was impossible for him to really leave Qin Feiyang and escape alone. Moreover, what Qin Feiyang said also made sense. If skeletons really appeared on the other side of the hill, then Dongfang Wuhan and the others would definitely have no time to spare. It would be a waste of time to go. "All of you, get out of the way for Fat Lord." Fatso roared again and again, his battle chi roaring in all directions. Although he couldn't kill these skeletons, with Fatso's strength, it was no problem to blow them away. Similarly, it was impossible for those skeletons to kill Qin Feiyang. But even so, because the number of skeletons was too large, it was impossible to guard against. When the two gathered together, there were a lot of wounds on their bodies. However, the blood on their bodies made those skeletons even crazier. Fatso said in a low voice, "Boss, we can't go on like this. Sooner or later, we will be exhausted to death by them. Don't panic, there must be a weakness." Qin Feiyang glanced at those skeletons, his face as gloomy as water. Suddenly, he looked at the flames in the eyes of those skeletons again. The skeletons were composed of 3 parts. First, the skeletons themselves. Second, the flames in the sea of vital energy. Third, The flames in the eyes of the skeletons. He had tried both the skeletons themselves and the flames in the sea of vital energy. He couldn't completely kill the skeletons, so only the flames in the eyes were left. Therefore, the weakness of the skeletons was very likely to be here. Whoosh! At the thought of this, he quickly rushed to the front of a skeleton and smashed his fist hard into the left eye of the skeleton. The skull shattered on the spot. The flames in the left eye also dissipated at the same time. Next, he raised his fist again and smashed the cluster of flames in the right eye. Then he fought with the other skeletons while paying attention to the situation of that skeleton. Is it okay? Fatso frowned. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, if this still doesn't work, then I have no other way. Time passed breath by breath. After dozens of breaths, the skeleton was still lying on the ground. Moreover, the flames in the skeleton's sea of vital energy began to dissipate without any bombardment. Seeing this situation, Qin Feiyang and Li Tianlan were overjoyed. Without a doubt, the flames in the eye sockets were the skeleton's fatal point. Now it's time for Fat Lord to go crazy. Fatso laughed loudly and used the return to one step. He approached a skeleton, reached out both hands, and instantly smashed the flames in the skeleton's eye sockets. Bang! That skeleton directly fell to the ground. When encountering a problem, you really have to be calm. Fatso couldn't help but sigh. If Qin Feiyang wasn't here today, he didn't know how long it would take for him to find the skeleton's weakness. After finding the weakness, with Qin Feiyang and Li Tianlan's strength, these skeletons naturally posed no threat to them. The two were like fierce wolves in a flock of sheep, and in less than 100 breaths, they finished off all the skeletons around them. Damn it, if the tiger doesn't show its power, do you think Fat Lord is a sick cat? Fatso stomped on a skeleton and said fiercely. Stop talking nonsense and go back to support. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and turned to rush towards the small hill. On the way, he encountered many skeletons, but they were all easily taken care of by him. Boss, Fat Lord really doesn't know, what are you in such a hurry for? You have to know that only the first 50 people to enter the Nirvana realm can enter the imperial capital. And this time, there are more than 500 people in our spiritual state alone. If we include the other 8 states, there will be at least 5 or 6,000 people. Fatso said. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and said, if you want to say something, just say it. Don't beat around the bush. What Fat Lord wants to say is that our enemies are not only the people from the other 8 states, but also the people around us. Although everyone is amiable now, Fat Lord dares to conclude that when we reach the Nirvana realm, there will definitely be a big fight. Fatso sneered. I know this without you saying it, but after all, there is still a long way to go, and we should try to reduce casualties as much as possible. Qin Feiyang said. Fatso's face twitched, and he said strangely, why does it sound like you are using them as cannon fodder? Didn't Dongfang Wuhan and the others also use them as cannon fodder? I guess even the two of us are cannon fodder in their eyes. Besides, I reminded them before we set off, but they insisted on coming. Who is to blame? Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. While they were talking, the two were only 100 meters away from the small hill. Although they couldn't see the situation on the small hill, the sound and fluctuations of the battle were enough to indicate that skeletons had indeed appeared. After a few breaths, when they entered the range of the small hill, they saw a group of skeletons, 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside, surrounding them in the center. The battle was extremely fierce. Everyone had different degrees of injuries on their bodies, and Dongfang Wuhan and the other 2 kings were no exception. Chapter 559. Tisk, Tsk, Tsk. Fatty was speechless as he watched this scene. He seemed to be taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. Hurry up and save her. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him, then broke into the group of skeletons and went straight to Ren Wuxuang. Wherever it passed, the skeletons would fall down in droves. Fei Yang. Ren Wuxuang, who was fighting with the skeletons, saw Qin Fei Yang and was pleasantly surprised. The others also noticed Qin Fei Yang. Seeing him in the group of skeletons, they all felt that it was unbelievable. After a few breaths, Qin Fei Yang killed all the way to Ren Wuxuang and protected her behind him. How did you do it? Ren Wuxuang looked at the skeletons that fell to the ground and never got up again. Her charming eyes were wide open and full of surprise. The others also looked at Qin Fei Yang, surprised and happy. You don't even know this, you are too stupid. Fatso was disdainful. Everyone stared at him angrily. Is Fat Lord wrong? Boss and I have already found their weakness. You have more than 500 people here, but you still haven't found it. If you are not stupid, then what are you? Fatso sneered again and again, wandering in the group of skeletons. He was also calm. Weakness? Everyone was surprised. Their weakness is the flame in their eye sockets. As long as the flame is dispersed, they will completely die. Qin Fei Yang reminded. Is that so? Everyone tried it skeptically. It was indeed effective. At that moment, as if they had been injected with chicken blood, they crazily slaughtered. Ren Wuxuang glanced at those people in disgust and whispered, Fei Yang, you shouldn't have told them the weakness of the skeletons. What do you mean? Qin Fei Yang was suspicious. Not long ago, Dongfang Wuhan sensed that you were fighting over there and wanted to bring everyone to support you. But in the end, except for me, Shen Mei, and Lu Xingchen, no one was willing to go. Ren Wuxuang told Qin Fei Yang about the situation at that time in detail. Fuck. Boss, did you see that? We kindly went to inquire about the situation for them, but they didn't care about our lives. Shameless villains like them are not worthy of our protection. After hearing these things, Fatso was furious. Fatty didn't try to hide what he said. Everyone heard him clearly. Immediately, some people blushed and felt ashamed. There were also people who stared at Fatso. Oh, you still have the face's face. Fat Lord is shameless, but Fat Lord is open and aboveboard. What are you guys like? Gentlemen on the surface, but villains behind. If I had known earlier, Fat Lord would never have let boss care about your life and death. Fatso sneered. Do I need you to care? That's right, don't think too highly of yourself. Without your reminder, we can still find the weakness of these skeletons. Someone immediately retorted. Yo! After all this time, it's us who are meddling in other people's business. Fatso laughed angrily. After helping them, not only did they not say a word of thanks, they even argued that they were in the wrong. It was simply unreasonable. All right. Since you said that we are meddling in other people's business, then we won't care about it in the future. There's no need to fight with them. Qin Fei Yang patted Fatso's shoulder. Doqi. Fatso waved his hand and slapped Qin Fei Yang's arm away, saying, Fat Lord doesn't have Doqi, he's just very unhappy. Then what do you want? Murong Xiong smashed a few skeletons around him and turned to look at Fatso with an extremely unfriendly gaze. What do you think? Fatso sneered again and again, and said, You're the most fucking shameless. What bullshit, king. I think you're more like a bear. Say it again if you have the guts. Murong Xiong took a step forward and landed in front of Fatso. His gaze was like a knife, extremely sharp. Fatso sneered and said, Don't say it once, you can say it as many times as you want. Murong Xiong, what do you want? If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Murong Xiong's eyes surged with killing intent. His big hand shot out and slapped towards Fatso. You did something wrong, and you don't allow others to say it? Qin Fei Yang said indifferently, but his gaze was extremely cold. Whoosh! But at this moment, Dongfang Wuhan rushed over and grabbed Murong Xiong's arm. He said in a deep voice, "Am I the captain, or are you the captain? Don't use the captain to scare me. Let go right now, or I'll take care of you too." Murong Xiong shouted, not putting Dongfang Wuhan in his eyes. "Is that so?" Dongfang Wuhan let go of his hand and said, "Commander Wang Hong and City Lord Jiang Qianqing shouldn't have left yet. Do you want us to go back and talk to them now?" Murong Xiong's pupils shrank. He looked at Qin Feiyang and sneered, "Let me give you a piece of advice. You'd better behave yourselves. Otherwise, the long journey will be long, and anything can happen." Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. A blatant threat under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Did he really think he was made of mud? There's no time like the present. Why don't I have a taste of the strength of the king of the inner palace right now? Although the old man and Wang Hong had repeatedly told them to put peace first, there were some people who wouldn't behave if you didn't beat them. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. They didn't even care about the skeletons around them. Because of this, a few people with low cultivation died under the skeleton's bone claws on the spot. Murong Xiong also turned around and looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment. His eyes were as if he was looking at an idiot. Did he know who he was? Did he know how strong he was? And he actually dared to provoke him? Dongfang Wuhan hurriedly destroyed a few skeletons and said angrily, "There are so many skeletons and you still haven't dealt with them. Can't you two stop?" "It's not that I don't want to stop, it's that he's courting death." Murong Xiong sneered. Qin Feiyang laughed, "Whether he's courting death or not, we'll know after we try. Alright, let me see how much weight you have now." Murong Xiong's 2-meter-tall body trembled, and a terrifying pressure was emitted from him. "Just a one-star battle ancestor," Qin Feiyang muttered. Hearing this, Murong Xiong immediately burned with anger and said gloomily, "Yes, I'm just a one-star battle ancestor, but I can still kill you without any strength to fight back." Boom! As soon as he finished, Murong Xiong took a step forward, his astonishing aura toppling the mountains and overturning the seas. The surrounding skeletons were all sent flying in an instant. Next, he punched towards Qin Feiyang, his eyes filled with bone-piercing killing intent. They really started fighting. Everyone was bewildered. "Don't worry about them, quickly get rid of these skeletons." Dongfang Wuhan was extremely angry. No matter what, he was still the honorary captain, and he was also the captain personally appointed by the big shots and the old man. Even if he didn't look at the monk's face, he still had to look at the Buddha's face, right? But these two people completely treated him as if he didn't exist. In fact, when the old man chose him as the captain, he had already expected such a thing to happen, but he didn't expect it to happen so quickly. Since he couldn't do anything about it, then he might as well not do anything about it. In any case, the one who would suffer in the end wasn't him, so there was no need to do those thankless things. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also struck out with his palm, and a resplendent golden light gushed out from his palm. Both of them were imposing, not giving in to each other. When the fist and palm collided, a deafening explosion sounded out. Puff! Following that, Murong Xiong spat out a mouthful of blood, and like a meteorite, he fiercely smashed into a hill behind him. With a rumbling sound, the hill shattered, and a deep pit appeared on the ground. What? Everyone was once again dumbstruck. They had thought that the final outcome would be that Qin Feiyang would be sent flying by Murong Xiong's fist. But they never thought that the result would be that Murong Xiong would be sent flying by Qin Feiyang's palm. Everyone knew that Qin Feiyang's talent in alchemy was unparalleled, but who would have thought that his strength was also so powerful? Swish! After sending Murong Xiong flying with a palm, Qin Feiyang used the phantom steps and landed in front of Murong Xiong. Without giving Murong Xiong any chance to counterattack, he stepped on Murong Xiong's chest again. Puff! Murong Xiong was injured once again. The qi and blood in his body were surging, his heart was damaged, and his mouth kept spitting out blood. Immediately after, he looked down at Murong Xiong and said indifferently, "Now tell me, who is the one who doesn't have the strength to fight back? You are only an 8-star war emperor, how can you be so strong?" Murong Xiong looked at him in disbelief. "So what if you are an 8-star war emperor? I have even killed a 2-star war sect before, let alone a little tramp like you. I didn't attack you, the king, in the inner palace because I didn't want to waste my energy on you, nor did I want to find trouble for no reason. Do you really think you are invincible?" Qin Feiyang sneered, his eyes filled with contempt. "When did he kill a 2-star war sect? Why haven't we heard of it?" Hearing this, everyone's hearts were once again set off by stormy waves, including Lu Xingchen and Ren Wushuang. Fatso also walked to the front of the deep pit, looked at Murong Xiong and said disdainfully, "Actually, we can't be bothered with a clown like you. Unfortunately, you are too insensible and have to come looking for a beating. I'm a little tramp. I'm a clown." Murong Xiong immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation, and suddenly erupted with an aura that was even more terrifying than before. "Are you going to activate your war soul?" Qin Feiyang pursed his lips into a sinister sneer. With a wave of his hand, he took out the Chang Shui and directly slashed it towards Murong Xiong's neck. "Junior brother Qin, please show mercy." Seeing this, Dongfang Wuhan anxiously shouted. It didn't matter if he made a ruckus, but he couldn't kill anyone. Murong Xiong was also shocked, and shouted in panic, "Junior brother Qin, don't kill me." Qin Feiyang's arm paused, and the ridicule on his face became even stronger. The Chang Shui stopped right above Murong Xiong's neck, only half an inch away, and could end his life at any time. The fatty chuckled. "Are you scared now? Do you still dare to be arrogant in front of us in the future?" I don't dare anymore, life and self-esteem." Murong Xiong did not hesitate to abandon his self-esteem and choose life. Qin Feiyang put away the Chang Shui, jumped over, and landed beside Fatso, and said indifferently, "I don't mind you taking revenge on me, but don't play tricks." "Yes, yes, yes." Murong Xiong nodded again and again, and climbed up in a sorry state, but there was a hint of fierceness in the depths of his eyes. Dongfang Wuhan glanced at Qin Feiyang and said, "Well, the farce should be over. Quickly help to deal with these skeletons." "Murong Xiong, did you see that? Senior brother Wuhan's character is so good. You have to learn more from him. As long as you respect others, others will respect you. I really don't understand. They are both kings of the inner hall, but why is the gap so big?" Chapter 560. But hearing Fatso's flattering words, Dongfang Wuhan raised his eyebrows without leaving a trace. This damn Fatso obviously did not have good intentions and wanted to drag him down as well. Because with this comparison, Murong Xiong would definitely hold a grudge against him. As expected. After Murong Xiong jumped out of the deep pit, he immediately looked at Dongfang Wuhan, and an imperceptible cold light flashed past the depths of his eyes. The farce came to an end. Everyone began to work together to deal with the skeletons in front of them. Qin Feiyang and Fatso were not idle either, but at the same time that they were killing the skeletons, they were protecting Ren Wushuang. And since Shen Mei and Ren Wushuang were together, they naturally became the target of their protection. Shen Mei asked curiously, "Qin Feiyang, Fatso, you just said that you killed 2 Star Wars sect, is that true?" "Of course it's true." Fatso laughed softly, his face full of pride. Shen Mei did not understand, "Then why is there no news at all?" Fatso said, "We killed them in another province, of course you wouldn't have received the news." Shen Mei was surprised. Ren Wushuang thought for a while, then frowned, "Is it the Cloud State?" "Congratulations, your answer is correct. The one we killed was the commander under the Cloud State's mansion lord. Fatso laughed sinisterly. The two girls looked at each other. They even dared to kill the commander of the Cloud State. These two fellows were truly savage. An hour later. Under everyone's efforts, the surrounding skeletons were finally all killed, and the bones on the ground piled up into a mountain. However, the inner palace had also lost quite a few people. There must be more skeletons nearby. Those who are injured, hurry up and heal your wounds. Prepare to fight at any time. Junior Brother Chin, Junior Brother Fatty, your injuries are the lightest. Help me count how many people have died this time. Dongfang Wuhan said. Qin Feiyang and Fatso nodded and quickly walked around the battlefield. Very quickly. They finished counting and walked in front of Dongfang Wuhan. How is it? Dongfang Wuhan asked, looking a little nervous. Fatso replied, more than 60 people. What? So many? Everyone was dumbfounded, unable to accept this terrifying number. One had to know. The plains were just the first stop, and they had already lost almost 1/10 of their people. What about the rest? It was hard to imagine how many people would still be alive when they reached the other side. Now, do you still dare to say that there is no danger here? Dongfang Wuhan glanced at the people behind him, especially Murong Xiong, who was fiercely glared at by him. Murong Xiong had been fanning the flames all this time, saying that there was no danger here and that there was no need to be so cautious. If they hadn't been bewitched by him and had been more careful, they might have ended up in a different situation. Fatso sneered, Senior Marshal Brother Wuhan, they are courting death. Why are you so angry? Be careful that you don't end up like us, working hard for nothing. Indeed. When Brother Chin was in the inner palace, he had already advised everyone not to come here unless they were 9-star combat emperors. They didn't listen to him, so they can only blame themselves. Lu Xingchen said. What do you mean? A mere 6-star combat emperor, what qualifications do you have to speak? Lu Xingchen, we used to admire you. But now, in our eyes, you are just a cowardly and incompetent trash. That's right, the Lu family was destroyed by Qin Feiyang, but what about you? Humph, not only did you not take revenge for them, you are also trying your best to please Qin Feiyang. To be honest, you are worse than a dog. Because a dog knows loyalty. Wu Yan and the others said angrily. But in the face of such insulting words, Lu Xingchen didn't get angry at all. He smiled faintly and said, okay, I said too much. You guys continue. You should have shut up long ago. Su Yang smiled disdainfully. You guys shut up too. Dongfang Wuhan shouted, his face full of anger. At this time, they still had the mood to cause internal strife. Seeing that Dongfang Wuhan had flipped out, Su Yang and the others tactfully shut their mouths. Sigh. Glancing at the crowd, Dongfang Wuhan let out a long sigh. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Junior Brother Qin, I have to thank you. If you hadn't pointed out the skeleton's weakness, the casualties would have been even greater. I was just doing my duty. What's more, we are all from the same sect. If I can help, I will do my best to help. Senior Brother Wuhan, you don't have to be so polite. Qin Feiyang smiled. If everyone was as sensible as you, wouldn't it be easy for our spiritual state to win? Unfortunately. Sigh. Speaking of this, Dongfang Wuhan couldn't help but sigh deeply. He felt weak physically and mentally. Everyone here was proud and arrogant. Wanting them to obey orders was harder than ascending to the heavens. He was now regretting taking over the position of the captain. Human, race, blood, suddenly. Roars that seemed to have come from hell could be heard intermittently from all directions. Everyone hurriedly looked over and couldn't help but feel their scalps tingle. In the distance, groups of skeletons were like a white wave, surging from all directions. At a glance, it was impossible to count how many there were. Someone said in horror, "Senior Brother Wuhan, what should we do?" Although they knew the weakness of the skeletons, there were too many of them. If this continued, they would be exhausted to death sooner or later. What else can we do? Now we can only kill all the way. Although I don't know how far we are from the end of the plane, I hope everyone must persevere. Dongfang Wuhan shouted. But there was still a sentence that he hid in his heart and didn't say out loud, fearing that it would affect everyone's morale. That was, he hoped that there were no such things in the death swamp. If there were in the death swamp, then it would be completely over. How can we persevere? There is no way to survive. If I had known this would happen, I would have listened to Qin Feiyang's suggestion and not participated in the Battle of the Nine States. But even so, looking at the endless tide of skeletons, many people felt desperate and regretted coming to this place. It's too late to regret now. Fatso sneered secretly. Everyone, cheer up. As long as we work together, there is no hurdle that we can't cross. Now listen to my arrangement. Wait, Wu Yan and Su Yang, follow me to open the way. Dong Jingyang, Murong Xiong, you two lead the other 8 and 9-star combat emperors to the left and right sides. Try to protect everyone as much as possible. Junior Brother Qin, Junior Brother Fatty, I'll have to trouble you two to cover the rear. Dongfang Wuhan shouted. No problem. Fatso smiled confidently. Dong Jingyang also nodded. Murong Xiong didn't dare to oppose Dongfang Wuhan now because it was related to everyone's safety. If he continued to obstruct them, it would definitely arouse public anger. Very good. But I still have to remind everyone, don't fall behind. Let's go. Dongfang Wuhan waved his hand and took the lead to kill the skeletons in front of him. Wu Yan and Su Yang looked at each other and immediately chased after him, following on his left and right sides. Boom! As they approached, the aura of the three completely erupted. Their battle chi traversed the vast sky and tore open a gap. Kill! The remaining 400 people roared and turned into a torrent, following closely behind the three of them and sprinting forward. Although their strength was relatively weak, in order to survive, they were all unscrupulous. At the same time, the battle on the left and right sides also began. Dong Jingyang and Murong Xiong each led a dozen people to block the skeletons that surrounded them from both sides. Relatively speaking, Qin Feiyang and Fatso, who were covering the rear, were more relaxed. But it was only easy at the beginning. When everyone went deep into the skeleton tide, many skeletons began to chase from the rear. The pressure was no less than that of Dongfang Wuhan and the other two who were clearing the way in front. If one stood high up in the sky and looked down at this moment, they would definitely see a shocking scene. The ground was full of skeletons. Densely packed, like a vast ocean. Qin Feiyang and the others were like a sharp sword, crazily charging forward, leaving behind a ground of bones. Not long after. A series of mournful screams rang out. On the right side, there were more than a dozen skeletons. Taking advantage of Dong Jingyang and the others' confusion, they rushed into the middle of the crowd. Those disciples quickly pincer attacked and killed them. But in the end, there were still 4 3-star war emperors and 2 4-star war emperors. Their heads were scratched by the skeleton's bone claws and they died on the spot. This scene caused many people to be filled with grief and indignation. Their eyes couldn't help but turn red. Dongfang Wuhan looked back and shouted, "Don't worry about them, let's go." It wasn't that he was heartless, it was because the current situation forced him to. If they stopped to collect their corpses now, it was very likely that more people would die because of this. The most important thing was that in the 9 nether yellow springs, they couldn't ask for help like outside. Here, they were fighting alone. So, anyone who was still alive was extremely precious. They were an indispensable fighting force. Everyone gritted their teeth and moved forward. After the death of those 6 people, everyone was more careful than before. But even so, casualties could happen at any time. Time passed bit by bit. The blood moon gradually set. The blood sun slowly climbed up from the horizon. Now, everyone had a feeling that time was passing very slowly. In just a few hours, it felt like a few centuries had passed. However, they still couldn't see the end of the plain. How far is the end? Wu Yan roared. After a night of fighting, even the three kings felt physically and mentally exhausted, let alone the others. Don't be irritable, you must stay calm. Dongfang Wuhan shouted, his gaze was extremely gloomy. If this continued, everyone would be exhausted to death before they died in battle. Fatso glanced at Wu Yan and shouted impatiently, why are you talking so much nonsense, let's go. Wu Yan suddenly turned his head to stare at Fatso and said angrily, if you have the ability, why don't you come to the front and try? It's really easy for you to say that. Fuck. Are you going to play with us at the back in the future? Fatso immediately became angry. Isn't that so? Wu Yan sneered. In his opinion, the pressure of opening a path at the front was much greater than the pressure of being at the back. Therefore, he was very unhappy with Fatso's attitude. Alright, since you say so, Fat Lord will fulfill your wish and let you enjoy yourself at the back. Fatso pursed his lips with a trace of ridicule and quickly ran to the front. Do you think I'm afraid? Chapter 561. Qin Feiyang couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. Because soon, Wu Yan would know how idiotic his previous thoughts were. Sure enough. In less than 100 breaths, Wu Yan's face darkened. He was shocked to find that the pressure at the back was about the same as at the front. In fact, if one were to make a precise comparison, the pressure at the back was even more than at the front. How was this possible? Wu Yan was unable to accept it. Qin Feiyang said, if you can't figure it out, look at the ground. Wu Yan looked down and found a lot of blood on the ground. Seeing the blood, he finally understood. After a night of bloody battle, everyone had wounds on their bodies. If there were wounds, they would naturally bleed. Therefore, wherever the team passed, there would be blood on the ground. And these skeletons, upon seeing the blood on the ground, would go crazy and swarm over, crazily chasing after them. Moreover, bringing up the rear was to fight with the skeletons while retreating. This would undoubtedly tie their hands and feet. As for the front, they only needed to charge forward and didn't need to look back at all. This was the reason why the pressure at the back was greater than the front. And the most important point was that there were 3 people clearing the way in front, but only 2 people at the back. Relatively speaking, the front would be a little easier. Therefore, Wu Yan began to regret it. But because of his face, he was too embarrassed to bring it up, so he could only brace himself and hold on. Qin Feiyang shook his head and focused on dealing with the skeletons that were chasing after them. A moment later, just as he was fighting with a dozen or so skeletons, another skeleton quietly lurked behind him, and its bone claws went straight for his back. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and waved his hand, directly shattering the skull of the skeleton and dispersing the flames in its eye sockets. However, the dozen or so skeletons in front of him swarmed forward at the same time. Qin Feiyang hurriedly retreated. However, a skeleton's bone claws grabbed his shoulder. Not only did it tear his clothes, a piece of flesh on his arm was also torn off. The intense pain caused his face to twitch. At the same time, anger surged in his heart. But this anger was not directed at the skeletons, but at Wu Yan. Although Wu Yan was also fighting with the skeletons just now, there were only 3 of them. They could completely free up their hands and help kill the skeleton that had sneaked around him. But Wu Yan didn't notice it at all. If it wasn't for his fast reaction and strong battle consciousness, he would have died to the claws of the skeleton. However, he didn't directly express his dissatisfaction and silently. However, the same thing happened a few more times after that. Wu Yan glared at him furiously. Qin Feiyang bellowed, and no longer paid attention to him. You actually chased him away? Qin Feiyang said, too unconscious. Fighting side by side with him, one word to describe it is tiring. Fat Lord is the same. Just now, Dongfang Wuhan's battle consciousness was barely passable, but that Su Yang is simply a pig. There were several times when he could have helped, but he just stood there like a fool. If not for the fear of affecting the morale, Fat Lord would have already started scolding. There is an old saying that goes, don't be afraid of a godlike opponent, but a pig-like teammate. Fatso shook his head. Su Yang also has no battle consciousness. Qin Feiyang was stunned and couldn't help but turn his head to look at Dongfang Wuhan. Being with two pigs was really hard on him. He also couldn't figure out how these two had cultivated to the 8-star war emperor. As time passed, the blood sun finally climbed up from the horizon. Although the light wasn't very bright, it was much brighter than at night. It was also at this moment. The skeletons that came from all directions drilled into the ground. In the blink of an eye, they all disappeared. What's going on? Everyone stopped and looked around in bewilderment. They couldn't even find the shadow of a skeleton. Was this a dream? But the skeletons left on the ground proved that all of this had indeed happened. But why was it like this? Everyone was puzzled. Someone cautiously asked, can we rest now? Dongfang Wuhan scanned the ground around him. Seeing that there were no abnormalities, he hesitated for a moment and said, no matter what happened, everyone should quickly recuperate. As soon as these words came out, some people immediately sat on the ground, completely ignoring their usual image and gasping for breath. Fat Lord is exhausted. Fatso directly laid on the ground, moaning weakly. Qin Feiyang took out 4 healing pills with 3 patterns. He took one himself and gave the other 3 to Fatso, Ren Wuxuang, and Shen Mei. Thank you. Shen Mei looked at Qin Feiyang gratefully, but she didn't stand on ceremony and directly put it into her mouth. The others around looked at Fatso and the other 2 with envy. The healing pills they took basically didn't have any patterns. The effect was several times worse than the 3-patterned healing pills. The speed of recovery naturally couldn't be compared. And in the current situation, the 3-patterned healing pills were undoubtedly life-saving divine pills. Unfortunately, they could only watch. I thought some people were aloof, but it turns out that they also know how to curry favor with others. Suddenly, a particularly bone-piercing voice of ridicule sounded. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. The person who spoke was Wu Yan. Fatso originally didn't have the strength to speak, but when he heard this, he immediately got up and looked at Wu Yan. Who are you talking about? Who am I talking about? Everyone knows in their hearts. If it weren't for the fact that Ren Wuxuang is the granddaughter of the mansion master and Shen Mei is the granddaughter of old city lord Shen, would Qin Feiyang give them healing pills? I don't know if you have noticed, but Qin Feiyang has been circling around them all the way. Thinking about it, they both have powerful backgrounds. If you can win their hearts, you can bask in their glory and at least work hard for hundreds of years. Don't deny it, we can actually understand. After all, no matter how talented a person is, if he doesn't have a background, it's impossible to establish a foothold in a place. Wu Yan chuckled, but her face was full of ridicule. Are you done talking? Qin Feiyang stood up and walked towards Wu Yan with a faint smile on his face. What's wrong? Did I hit a sore spot and become angry out of humiliation? Wu Yan sneered and stared at him, not to be outdone. Whatever you say, I have endured you for a long time, and I don't intend to endure it anymore. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Fatso crossed his arms and joked, Fat Lord has never seen someone as unafraid of death as you. You really want to fight? Wu Yan's pupils shrank, and she hurriedly got up and ran behind Dongfang Wuhan. Can't you be more honest? Dongfang Wuhan glared at Wu Yan angrily, then turned to Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, Junior brother Qin, Wu Yan is just joking, don't be so serious. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, why can't I see that he's joking? Senior brother Wuhan, please step aside. Dongfang Wuhan sighed, junior brother Qin, you can see the current situation. We can't have any more internal strife. For my sake, can you let him go this time? Qin Feiyang shook his head. As long as they didn't provoke him, it didn't matter. But as long as they provoked him, even if the heavenly emperor came down, they wouldn't be able to stop him. Fatso laughed and said, Senior brother Wuhan, he was the one who started it first, so even if there is an internal strife, it can't be blamed on us. Then blame me? It seems that it is indeed my fault. It is my incompetence as the captain, and I don't want to be the captain anymore. Let's do it this way. Since the mansion master and Wang Hong are not here, let's choose again. Dongfang Wuhan said, and there was a bit of anger in his tone. In an instant, everyone fell silent. At first, everyone thought that being the captain was a good job, but only when they came here did they realize that being the captain was a two-sided job. Senior brother Wuhan, you are the captain because my grandfather personally appointed you. It's not that easy to get away with it. Ren Wushuang was the first to break the silence. Junior sister Wushuang, I also want to be the captain, but as you can see, who is willing to listen to me? Dongfang Wuhan said helplessly. Ren Wushuang glanced at everyone and looked at Dongfang Wuhan, how about this, when you make the right choice, if everyone doesn't listen, I will tell grandfather when we go back. At that time, you will have to bear the consequences. Of course, there are also those who take the initiative to cause trouble. Ren Wushuang added with a smile. Everyone's heart trembled. With the mansion master's granddaughter supervising them, they really couldn't do things recklessly in the future. Dongfang Wuhan cupped his hands and said, thank you for your support, junior sister Wushuang. Ren Wushuang smiled and looked at Qin Feiyang, forget it, there is no need to argue with this kind of person. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at Wu Yan, this is the last time, don't fall into my hands again. After that, he turned and walked towards Ren Wushuang. Listening to a woman's words is really a disgrace to men. Wu Yan secretly sneered. Seeing this scene, most of the people despised Qin Feiyang in their hearts. When Qin Feiyang arrived in front of Ren Wushuang frowned and said, brother, why don't you just directly announce our relationship, so that you won't be laughed at by them? Qin Feiyang said indifferently, there's no need for that. A clown will always be a clown. All right then. Ren Wushuang nodded. All right, everyone quickly recover from your injuries. Junior brother Qin, Dong Zhengyang, Murong Xiong, Lu Xingchen, come with me, I have something to discuss with you. Dongfang Wuhan instructed everyone and walked towards a small hill not far away. Qin Feiyang and the other three also walked over one after another. After Qin Feiyang left, Shenmei patted Ren Wushuang's shoulder and said with a smile, Wushuang, how do you plan to announce your relationship with Qin Feiyang? Brother and sister, or something else? Ren Wushuang's white forehead suddenly had a row of black lines, and she said angrily, if you talk nonsense again, we won't be sisters anymore. Did I talk nonsense? What nonsense did I say? I think you are thinking too much. Chapter 562. Beside the small hill. Qin Feiyang, Dongfang Wuhan, Murong Xiong, Lu Xingchen, and Dong Zhengyang were gathered together. Lu Xingchen glanced at them and said with a faint smile, you guys are discussing serious matters. I don't seem to have the qualifications to participate. Dongfang Wuhan looked at Lu Xingchen strangely and asked, Junior brother Lu, when did you become so modest? If it was the previous Lu Xingchen, no matter where he went, he would fight for fame and fortune, giving people a strong sense of existence. Even if it was Dong Zhengyang and Murong Xiong, Lu Xingchen didn't care about them in the slightest. But now, Lu Xingchen's body seemed to be covered with a veil, making it easy for people to overlook him. Hearing Dongfang Wuhan's words, Lu Xingchen shook his head and said with emotion, I was too ignorant in the past. If I have offended you, please forgive me. Dong Jingyang and Murong Xiong looked at each other. What was this person up to? Although Lu Xingchen had repeatedly said that it was because he had died once and now looked at everything lightly, they always felt that it wasn't that simple. But now, Lu Xingchen was like a mystery, making it difficult for people to see through him. Junior brother Lu can have the current awareness, it can be seen that his temperament has changed. Don't mention the past. Now, I've called everyone here to discuss the current situation. Before that, I would like to solemnly apologize to junior brother Qin. I was really helpless to protect Wu Yan and Dong Jingyang. I hope junior brother Qin can forgive me. Dongfang Wuhan cupped his hands and said. I'm fine. But vermin will always be vermin. In extraordinary times, it's best to use extraordinary means to avoid dragging everyone down. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. Dongfang Wuhan nodded and said, Junior brother Qin is right. If they dare to cause trouble again, I will not let them off easily. Murong Xiong looked at them and said impatiently, Okay, enough with the pleasantries, let's get down to business. Alright, let's talk business. I did a rough calculation just now. From last night until now, more than 50 of our men have been sacrificed. Including the people who died at the beginning, we now have more than 100 brothers and sisters who have died in the 9 underworlds. I believe everyone is well aware of what this means. Dongfang Wuhan said solemnly. Qin Feiyang and the other 3 nodded. Before they even entered the death swamp, more than 100 people had already died. The danger here was seriously beyond their expectations. Dong Jingyang suddenly said, Actually, it's nothing. Anyway, they're just cannon fodder. They don't have much value. This was the first time he had spoken, but regardless of whether it was his words or his expression, they were filled with indifference. Qin Feiyang and the others couldn't help but look at Dong Jingyang. What is it? Am I wrong? Didn't you go through so much trouble to protect them because you wanted them to scout ahead at the critical moment? Since they are scouting the way, what's the difference between them and cannon fodder? Dong Jingyang sneered. Dongfang Wuhan shook his head and said, Dong Jingyang, I don't agree with this. I sincerely hope that everyone can go back alive. That's a bit hypocritical. There are only 50 places to enter the imperial capital. Not to mention the other 8 states, even our spiritual state is not enough. If everyone goes back alive, who will get these 50 places? Dong Jingyang said. There are always ways to work around it. What's more, I believe that everyone here is a reasonable person. If we protect them to survive, they will definitely know how to be grateful and take the initiative to withdraw and not compete with us. Dongfang Wuhan smiled. Grateful? Dong Jingyang didn't say anything more, but there was a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. In fact, there's no need to discuss this topic now. Because we don't know what's ahead. It's possible that we will die here, let alone protect them. Murong Xiong said lightly. Qin Feiyang nodded. This was the truth. He wondered, Senior brother Wuhan, what's your plan for calling us here? If I had a plan, I wouldn't have asked you to discuss it. Dongfang Wuhan smiled bitterly. Several people couldn't help but frown and ponder. After a few breaths, Lu Xingchen said, in fact, from last night until now, our casualties can be reduced. What do you mean? Dongfang Wuhan looked at him expectantly. Lu Xingchen stretched out 2 fingers and said, one word, tacit understanding. Last night, when we were on the road, I had been observing. I found that when we were fighting with the skeletons, although everyone was facing a common enemy, we didn't really relax our vigilance against each other. This caused a serious lack of tacit understanding. If everyone can put down the grudges in their hearts and truly unite, I dare say that the casualties will definitely not be so many. Lu Xingchen said. Dongfang Wuhan immediately gave a thumbs up and said with a smile, "Junior brother Lu really has a sharp eye, hitting the nail on the head. That's right. Now our enemy is not those skeletons, but ourselves. As long as we completely relax our vigilance and unite, we will definitely be able to survive this disaster. What do you think?" Dongfang Wuhan looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two. Murong Xiong and Dong Zhengyang immediately raised the corners of their mouths and sneered. Although Qin Feiyang didn't make it so obvious, he didn't think that everyone could do it. Because everyone had selfishness in their hearts, it could be said that it was harder than ascending to the heavens to achieve unity. I think there is one more thing to add. That is combat awareness. I remember that when Wu Yan went to the rear to cover Brother Qin's retreat, Brother Qin was attacked by the skeletons several times. Wu Yan could actually free up his hands to help, but he didn't notice. It may seem like a small matter, but in fact, it is related to the other party's life and trust. Who would be willing to fight side by side with such a person? Lu Xingchen said again. Hearing these words, Dongfang Wuhan and the other two suddenly realized that this was the reason why Qin Feiyang dared to take Wu Yan away. To be honest, not only Wu Yan, but also Su Yang and many other people, their combat awareness is not very good. This is also another reason for the heavy casualties. Dongfang Wuhan said. For the whole night, he and Wu Yan had been clearing the path in front, so he had a deeper understanding than the others. How about this, we rearrange? According to my observation, Shenlong and Jiang Wei's combat awareness is not bad, and they are both 9-star combat emperors. Let them cover the rear or clear the path. Lu Xingchen suggested. Dong Zhengyang immediately said, "No, if they leave, won't we lose a big help on our left and right?" "I don't agree." Murong Xiong said. Shenlong and Jiang Wei originally followed them to block the left and right sides. And after this night of fighting, they also realized how important it was to have a teammate with combat awareness. So they didn't want to let go. Dongfang Wuhan pondered for a moment and nodded, "I think so, but Dong Zhengyang and Murong Xiong's concerns are not bad. If Shenlong and Jiang Wei are transferred away, the combat power on both sides will indeed decrease a lot, so I have decided to let Su Yang and Wu Yan exchange positions with them." Dongfang Wuhan, what do you mean? Leaving these two trash to us, isn't it just giving us trouble? Dong Zhengyang and Wu Yan said angrily. Trash. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. No matter how bad Su Yang and Wu Yan were, they were still 8-star combat emperors. I also know that this is a bit unfair to you. But there are more people on both sides. Su Yang and Wu Yan's strength is not bad, they can help each other. But there are only 2 or 3 people in front and behind, so we need elites. I hope you two understand. Dongfang Wuhan cupped his hands and said, his face was full of pleading. Dong Zhengyang and Wu Yan had no choice but to nod and let them go. Because Ren Wushuang had said that when Dongfang Wuhan made the right choice, everyone must obey. And now, Dongfang Wuhan's arrangement was indeed beneficial to everyone. Seeing that the two agreed, Dongfang Wuhan was also beaming with joy. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I will have to trouble junior brother Qin and junior brother Fatty. Qin Feiyang nodded. After a detailed discussion, the few of them returned to their resting place and told everyone about the results of the discussion. I object. Why should we be swapped with Jiang Wei and Wu Yan? Wu Yan and Su Yang immediately stood up to protest. Fatso said disdainfully, it's obviously because you guys are dragging us down. You can't even think of this, what an idiot. Damn Fatso, who are you dragging us down? Say it again if you have the guts. The two of them were immediately enraged. Seeing this, the faces of Qin Feiyang and the others couldn't help but twitch. It was fine as long as he knew it in his heart, why did he have to say it so bluntly? Cough cough. Dongfang Wuhan clenched his fist and coughed a few times. He looked at Wu Yan and said, don't listen to junior brother Fatty's nonsense. We have considered all the factors in this arrangement. Don't take us for fools. Wu Yan snorted. Ren Wuxuang asked with a smile, so, you are not going to obey the arrangement? Wu Yan was about to fly into a rage, but when she saw the smile on Ren Wuxuang's face, she swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth and said, I obey. I also obey. Su Yang also nodded. But in their hearts, they were extremely aggrieved and angry. Because even a fool could see that they were now like annoying rubber balls covered in feces that were being kicked around by others. Fatso walked up to the two of them, patted their shoulders, and sighed. Actually, we don't mean to look down on you. We just hope that in this way, we can inspire your fighting spirit and make you work hard. Get lost. Su Yang and Wu Yan could no longer hold back the anger in their hearts. They roared hysterically, and their facial features were distorted. Fatso rubbed his ears, looked at the two of them in disappointment, and shook his head. You really can't be taught. All right, all right. It's not easy for everyone to be at peace. Don't make trouble again. Hurry up and rest. We will continue our journey in half an hour. Dongfang Wuhan helplessly looked at Fatso, and then ordered. He sat cross-legged on the ground and began to heal his injuries. But Qin Feiyang did not heal his injuries. He lowered his head and scanned the ground, his brows tightly knitted together. Fatso suspiciously walked to his side and asked, Boss, what are you looking at? I remember that last night, after the blood sun fell and the blood moon rose, these skeletons appeared. And today, as soon as the blood sun appeared, they drilled into the ground. I'm thinking, is there any connection between them? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.